Mauro's pecking and a poking over there.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready.
We're live. Mauro Ranallo and the great Bas Rutten, the dynamic duo of Pride Fighting Championships. Back in the day, classic fights. You guys are attached to some of the greatest fights of all time.
We are. I used to tell him every time after a single fight, I say, because at the time was 6 billion people, I go, hey, understand, 2 in 6 billion people just did the commentating for this show. Because we love that show. It was crazy.
And I owe it all to this man, Mr. Rogan. Bas Rutten, in many ways, saved my life.
Uh-oh. This is getting dark early.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to go down a happy road, but nope. Mauro Ranallo wants to immediately go down the Bas Rutten saved my life road.
No. Let's keep it positive because my two worlds collided on my very first event in Pride at Bushido 1, October 5th, 2003. Pro wrestler, Dos Caras Jr., remember the guy in the mask?
Sure.
And they had to actually cut out even bigger eye holes because he was going
no
I mean, he's
vision.
fighting Mirko Cro Cop for one. And can you imagine a commission in North America would never allow that? And yet, good old Alberto went in, boom.
Did you see the recent one with Gabby Garcia, the Rizn?
Oh, it was scary. I just saw like an, like a repeat thing, like a little loop thing. But
she fought an old lady.
52-year-old
I don't know.
woman,
I don't know if she was 52.
Pro
but
wrestler.
Whatever she was hobbled. She couldn't walk.
Yeah, well.
Like her knees were totally wrapped up. She was limping from the moment she got in there. And then
insane.
Gabby Garcia towering over this old lady.
I saw that.
She just beats
She
the
swallowed
shit
her.
out of her. I mean, it was just an
Well,
assault.
remember Giant Silva taking
Yeah.
a 2x4
That
into the
sounds like
Pride
Japan.
ring against Takeshi Segura? Remember Big Giant Silva?
He
that
took
was
a
crazy.
2x4?
A 2x4. It was
to
like
hit him with it?
what at the end of the angle, yeah, on a Pride Fighting Championship event.
Why did he do that?
It was again the marriage of pro wrestling and Pride in many ways. The larger than life storylines and production could lead to things like that, and we saw it firsthand. The freak fights, if you will.
Right.
It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a part of the actual fight. The fight itself was there, but. You remember Alistair used to bring the axe?
Sledgehammer.
There were pro wrestling-esque entrances, which
Right,
a
but-
lot of people loved.
But was this a part of his entrance?
This was
Or is this
after the
threatening
fight.
somebody?
Yeah, this was after the fight. Remember Takeshi Segura and Giant Silva, right?
Yeah, I
the
remember
fight.
that.
And it was like, yeah, he had the 2x4.
Do you think
as
it was
a prop.
just choreographed? It was a prop choreographed?
I think it was maybe a part of the presentation and not something that, like you say, he wanted to assault someone with.
Yeah, there was a few fights
2x4.
in the early days that you were like, oh, okay, that's a fixed fight, right? There's a few.
Oh, listen, you remember there was the funniest thing ever. Coleman was fighting Takada.
Takada, yeah, that
and they
heel
told
hook.
me there was
Yeah.
going to be he was going to get finished in 6 minutes by way of heel hook. So now the press comes to me and they tell me, what do you think is going to happen in this fight? I said, oh, it's easy. Takada's going to win. 6 minutes heel hook.
Oh, God.
And everybody froze because this was before the fight. So they had to change their whole gimmick, what they were going to do. It went like to 1.5 minutes now. But I
Instead of
I
6
guess I
minutes.
spoiled it for him.
You
So
had
they
the
had it
Back
all
to the
planned
Future
out.
Pride result.
They had it all planned out.
They hold up, everything with Takada, I would say. Well, except Hickson,
Except
of
for
course.
Hickson.
Yeah, that
Hickson
was real.
mauled Takada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was 100%
But
real.
Takada came in our studio training at the Beverly Hills Jiu-Jitsu Club. We had white and blue belts tapping him, so it was not like this guy was.
Well, he was just a
whole
big-time pro
wrestler.
wrestler.
And that is
Yeah.
why they wanted to, again, that's, you talk about how Pride Fighting Championships, the genesis, it was that, bringing the biggest, the so-called toughest, best pro wrestler against Rickson Gracie, the mythic
I think
Vale-Tudo jiu-jitsu fighter.
The UFC had a similar but more rational approach to it recently with CM Punk versus Mickey Gall. They said, well, let's give this CM Punk guy a kid with one fight. One amateur fight. I think he had at least one amateur fight and one
like 2 or
fight in
3,
the
I think.
UFC. Showed some promise, choked a guy out. And we said, okay, you're going to get a tough kid. You're going to get a tough kid, but you're going to have fight a real fighter. But, you're not going to fight Rickson Gracie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just, at that time, nobody had jiu-jitsu like Rickson.
No.
He was just so above and beyond anyone.
Everything, yeah. Unreal.
Yeah.
I saw these,
Was he 400-0?
No.
No. That's a nice round number, I always say.
They always threw that out. Like, you gotta wonder who threw that out first. Like, they did everyone such a disservice.
Do it like 398, right? That sounds way more believable than a perfect 400-0.
What's crazy is when you see these Thai fighters who literally do have
they do.
200 fights, and they're 20 years old.
Yeah. Well,
like, there's some kids that fight for Lion Fight.
Yeah, and Sitachai Sitsong Pinong, who's the lightweight champion now in Gloria.
Yes.
And in fact, many years ago in Canada, doing Muay Thai on TSN, the ESPN equivalent up there, same thing. When you brought in the Thai fighters, they were, as you know, Joe. And there's a good documentary. Shameless plug. Showtime is going to be showing a documentary about fighting in Thailand and in Muay Thai, where these kids literally, that's how they survive, right? You start at 8, 9 years old, and you're on your way to hopefully making enough to eat.
Did you hear the new documentary that they're doing right now? There are people in jail, like murderers. They get a chance to fight themselves for a pardon.
Oh my God!
That's a new show. It's going to start in a week.
That
on,
may be that may be the documentary as
what's
well on
the guy
Showtime.
who played that Red Devil? What's his name? In the rat suit, the guy with the horns cut off. Famous actor. He was
Hellboy? Talking about
Hellboy. That actor.
Oh,
he's also in that gang.
God damn it! Why is my brain
You
locked
see?
up?
Yeah, me too. But he's narrating it.
Jamie, you know who it is. The dude who's the star of Hellboy.
I got the documentary is called 5 Rounds to Freedom. Is what I was
Nice.
Yeah, but it's narrated by him.
I know, I was trying
Pull up the piece on
IMDb.
it, the page on it, whatever it is. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Muay Thai.
Ron
It's
Perlman.
Freedom.
Ron
Oh,
Perlman.
Ron Perlman.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Wow, that's crazy. So what are their crimes that they're going to be
The one guy, for what I
absolved
understand, that he stabbed somebody in the neck, and I go, like, you know, a petty crime. I go, okay, I can understand it, but a murderer? I don't know
Look
if you
at
want to bring a
this.
murderer
Violent
back.
criminals.
The state-sponsored rehabilitation program, popular known as Prison Fight, is not reserved for petty criminals. Under the law, violent criminals, including those convicted of murder. Hold on a second. Our piece of shit.
See, this is the one I was talking about.
Including those
Showtime.
convicted of murder and sexual assault have been freed and in some cases fully absolved of their crimes through their participation in prison fights. Well, that sounds crazy.
Airs on my birthday. That's even crazier.
That's
Look at
crazy that anybody would allow this. Like
Only in
all you
Thailand.
have to do if you're a violent criminal is prove that you're more violent than the other violent criminals and you get your freedom. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lesson to be learned for them.
Says it results on one
They
final
are free.
fight. Yeah, can violent men redeem themselves through violent acts?
That's
There?
ridiculous. Of course
Well,
they
they
can't.
think probably a plus and a plus becomes a negative. Maybe they think that way.
Yeah, but what
become
if someone
suddenly a
did
good
something
guy?
to your sister or your daughter or your mom,
That's-
and then they get out because they beat the fuck out of all the other rapists?
100% agree.
If you see the trailer, that's what a woman says. He stabbed his kid in the neck, killed the kid, and now this guy is going to fight for his life to get out of there.
Yeah.
You see, it shouldn't be
No.
That's
legal.
crazy. So back to the 400 and no, most likely not a real number in anybody's case. Somebody just made that up for, propaganda purposes.
If they would have said over 400 or just below 400, you see, but making it 400.
I love that his son is super active now, and I love that Crone is fighting like really top guys now. And he fought Kawajiri in his last fight. He's a tough fucking guy.
That's a tough guy, yeah.
He choked Kawajiri out.
I always wondered what happened to Crossley Gracie. Remember
Man,
when
he was
he
so
had so
good.
much
His
potential.
striking.
His strike, that's the thing. He seemed to be the first Gracie to me to take it to the next level, become more well-rounded and well-versed, and whoop, done.
Well, I think Hodger showed really great promise
Yes.
until King Mo knocked him out.
Right.
And then that was a big knockout. King Mo can crack. He's got some serious power. He's a tremendous athlete.
Student of striking as well. Huge boxing fan.
I'll never forget that ground and pound KO that he had with Seth Pazinski.
Yes.
Oof.
Scary guy to have on top of you.
Oh, my God. Yeah, but throw the guard to the side and drop that right hand on you. Like, oh, my God.
Well, it's and again, Henderson, Dan Henderson.
Then
You talk
I was
about
just gonna say
wrestlers
that,
with
same
power.
thing,
I
yeah.
mean, it's amazing how some
Benji
were
Reddick
blessed.
at the time. I mean, remember, he just Ninja.
Yeah.
That was one shot.
Yep.
And I told him to everybody, he is that guy that when he has faces a great striker, and I tell him, just take him down. I mean, I saw him train with Mo Lawal. He took Mo down. I mean,
Wow.
Benji was freaking animal. Like in training, my focus mitts, my hands would hurt after I would hold him. And he would stand on one leg and hit. I don't have no clue how he generated that kind of force, but he had so much power. And I said, dude, just take him down. Scott Smith, why would you even go with him? The guy's a striker. Just take him down, knock him out on the ground. And he didn't do it. Every time at the end of the round he did it, hit him one time, it was almost dazed, and the belt went. And in the second round again, but the third round he lost.
What a compelling career for Scott Smith, too, right? Headlining events on CBS, major network exposure. I remember what we called the Christmas miracle when he came back and knocked out Kung Lee. And and again, a guy who's, I think, back working hands of steel back in the factory. And it's interesting how the sport in such a short period of time, of course, we've seen the explosion, but what could have been even with Elite XC, and we saw what happened with Kimbo. But it's just interesting for me now as we reminisce about stuff, how so many organizations had opportunities and yet fell by the wayside for one reason or another. A lot of it self-inflicted.
Well, Elite XC was a really hard one to watch because it was bastardizing the sport. You were seeing they were standing people up. Like, do you remember when?
I remember that 15-second rule was
it was crazy,
disastrous.
but it was also they were standing people up in dominant positions, like Roy Nelson
and
Arlovsky.
You're right.
Had him inside
incredulous.
Control. Working for Kimura, and they stood him up. They're like, whoa, that's crazy.
But
then you can understand why, though, with Kimbo Slice, taking what was necessary to bring, it was the first organization to make it to major network TV. And I think there were some decent fighters along the way as well. Were you a Kimbo fan at all in terms, I know you're pure martial arts, and that's why I respect and sit here bowing down at the altar of the erudite one, but did you like what Kimbo Slice represented at the time?
Well, I think Kimbo Slice was a tough guy, and he was a fun guy to watch. But the reality of what he represented as a mixed martial arts fighter at that time was he was fairly novice.
Yes.
He didn't really have a ground game, and he really couldn't stop a good wrestler from taking him down. But he was a good puncher who was really good in those backyard brawls.
Sure.
Like, in those environments, he was tougher than 99% of the guys out there, and he would smash guys. And he'd smashed a few guys in MMA.
Yeah.
And, what I really respect about Kimbo is that he went on The Ultimate Fighter, and he gave a go of it. I mean, he really did.
That was a big thing.
Yeah, and he was already a huge YouTube star at the time. So he went on with all these other unknown guys who were wrestlers and football players and guys like Roy Nelson, and he handled it like a fucking man.
Big target on his back.
Big target on his back.
Everybody knew he was
the
the opening. I want to fight him. I want to fight him. Everybody wanted to fight him.
And the numbers were through the roof when he was on.
Exactly.
Through the roof.
Yep.
And he was a great guy.
Yeah.
He was always a super friendly, real nice guy, always cool with everybody.
Yep.
But despite his appearances, he looked like with the gold teeth and the crazy beard.
Oh, man, we had so much fun with that guy.
Really good guy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, though, it seems, because I think there's the argument continues even now in the sport, right? What, with the rankings, right? Joe, how come Damian Maia's not getting the next shot at Tyron Woodley? Well, because the money fight is...
Oh,
Don't you think, though, in that fight that Woodley and Wonderboy have to rematch?
Oh, 100%.
It's a draw.
I agree 100%. But then I also think Dominic Cruz and Cody Garbrandt, as much as what a masterpiece, but if you look at the backgrounds and what's happened in the past, I think Dominic Cruz also deserves a rematch.
I don't agree with that.
You don't?
I don't agree with that because I don't think that was that close. I think Cody clearly won that fight.
Oh, I agree.
I think Cody
but what he represents with the body of work that he's done in the...
Sure, yeah, I mean,
But TJ Dillashaw first then.
He was an amazing fighter, but TJ's been waiting for a long time. TJ barely lost a fight with Dominic. It was a razor-close decision that could have gone either way.
Yep.
And then he goes on to beat Rafael Sunsao, and I just feel like in his position now, and then he beat, the Lineker fight.
Yeah, John
even
Lineker
more
was
impressive.
amazing, incredible.
He shut Lineker down. And Lineker's a
That's
damn
a
destroyer.
tough dude.
But there's no exact science, I guess, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying in terms of
Lineker-
how it comes to matchmaking and putting together championship fights and what do you market, the freak, the star,
Right.
the dominant fighter. That's why I love the sport.
Yeah, well, there's certainly arguments either way. I mean, there's an interesting triangle between the three of those guys. I mean, there's a lot of good matchups that could be made with those guys. And then also there's Dodson. Don't ever sleep on Dodson. Dodson might have lost to Lineker, but I think Dodson, when he's on, is one of the fastest, most talented guys in the division.
It's like he's glued, I always say, to the mat. The way he moves, it jumps like a freaking spider almost.
Yeah.
And he doesn't slip. It's really weird.
And if he catches you, man, that finish is... I mean, he's
for
a
a guy his
fucking
weight,
thunderbolt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the lighter, they say the lighter weights can't pop. Well, Cody Garbrandt, Dodson, others are showing. Even Demetrius Johnson seems to have, again, pound for pound, one of the greats, right? One of my favorite fighters ever. But I think he's becoming more, not necessarily more aggressive, but there's some finish now to his game as well.
He's always been trying to finish guys, but you're fighting a guy like Ali Bagutinov.
Yes,
he's a tough fucking guy. Tough to finish those guys. I mean, think about who he finished. He finished John Moraga. He finished Haraguchi with 1 second to go. I mean, he's a fucking animal.
He's an animal.
He knocks out Benavidez with one punch.
Wow.
Beats the shit out of Cejudo. Stops him in one round.
That's where really I was like, wow, this. It's. But I'm hoping, like we've seen with boxing, that the UFC fan base, MMA fan base, begins to rally around these lighter weight classes, because to me that's mixed martial arts at its best.
I always loved the WEC. That was my favorite show because these guys had full gas tanks. Nowadays everybody has it, but at the time we're only the lightweights, and that's why I loved that show. And then when UFC brought it up, I thought, hey, more power to them. Actually, very smart.
I think Cody Garbrandt has a real possibility of becoming a huge mainstream star. He's a handsome guy. He's a devastating puncher.
Amen.
Vicious striker. He's charismatic. He's confident. He's very moral and ethical. You know, his relationship with that young boy that had leukemia,
fantastic.
And he helped him through it. And I mean, it's like intense shit, man. I mean, he's a special guy.
And that's
was it leukemia? Is that what it was?
Yeah, leukemia,
right.
I mean, he's a special guy.
He pulled all that stops out, man. I like I said, we just mentioned on our podcast. It's like it was almost like he was holding back, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to pull it out once I fight for the title. That's when I'm really going to show what I can do." Because he looked like a complete different fighter. He was always good, but this was a whole different
But the way
level.
he dominated Dominic Cruz
That's
mentally,
what I mean.
especially leading
Also
up to the
that.
fight where it appeared that he had gotten, Cruz had gotten under his skin when he stormed out of the interview stuff. But from the opening bell, like you say, the taunting and stuff, and yet able to back it up and show whether it's evolution or whether it was already there. A masterful performance, man.
Well, he grew up in tough environments, and I think that what he said after the fight when I asked him about it, like, was the taunting, did it bother you? He goes, no, I love that stuff. He was like, I'm used to that. Like, that was an environment where he's comfortable in. Well, he was also able to stay real calm in that, world championship spotlight. That's very difficult to do.
Plus, he flipped it around. He shows Cruz that he doesn't want to go into this battle almost like walking off. But then once the fight started, he started doing it to Cruz, and I think it got to Cruz. Pointing at the ground, doing the little breakdance moves,
But
with the
then
uppercuts.
credit Cruz for the way he handled defeat.
Yeah, but
very
that's a real
gracious,
like a man.
Not like
handled it
others.
as good as anybody. Tim Kennedy's another one. Handled it as good as anybody.
Yeah.
Some guys.
McGregor.
Yes. Handled it. McGregor handled it as good as anybody. He beat me. That's it.
Yeah.
That's as admirable, as putting out the correct game plan and winning. I mean, there's something incredibly admirable about a guy who can take a loss like a man or a woman. I mean, anyone who can just accept what happened, and that's just what it is. It's very unfortunate when you see someone that's saying some things that don't really make sense, like after a fight, or blaming it on other people, or blaming it on their camp, or blaming it on an injury, and it's just.
And I think you did bring this up, and I agree with you in terms of when someone has been knocked out, or someone has been in a very grueling, tough fight. I don't know why we are forced to interview them.
Yeah, I don't
you had
think
to
it's
with
fair.
Overeem, right?
Yeah,
well,
it's
with
not fair.
Yeah, and I know it's
Take
put
a look
you
at the
and
replay.
myself too at times where I'm like, it's not right.
I remember I've interviewed Cro Cop after the Gonzaga fight when Gonzaga head kicked him. And I was asking him questions. He had no idea where he was. You could tell there was no one home. I mean, he had just gotten completely flatlined. And I said to them then, I said, I really don't think we should interview people after knockouts again. But I dropped it. We never talked about it again. And then after that one, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, he was out cold, and he thinks
and like you said, Alistair Overeem, obviously, too, where he, for whatever reason, thought what he did.
He thought he had a guillotine.
Yeah,
he really did.
Didn't.
I mean,
not
he really
even
did.
close.
No, not even
so
close.
and that's, unfortunate that, I don't see what it accomplishes anyway.
Yeah, it made me feel bad, too. And I had to give him the opportunity, and then I had to give him an opportunity again because he couldn't see it the first time.
Yes.
So we had to watch it from another angle, and the other angle revealed that it didn't happen. So he was kind of stuck.
Yeah.
That's not
Awkward.
fair.
No,
it's not.
But it's also not fair if someone tells you they had a guillotine. You got to look at it.
Oh, whoa, 100.
You
You
have to.
have one.
You never
yes,
know.
of course.
'Cause that would be fucking crazy. If we saw that he had the guillotine, we saw Stipe do this, and we went, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
That
Well,
would've
hey,
changed the history.
what about my introduction to Pride? My very first show, Bushido 1, our first fight, Chris Brennan, Eiji Mutsuoka. I'm settling in, getting ready. I'm really excited to work with Bas. And immediately there's controversy. Brennan had Mutsuoka in the armbar. We saw him tap, and right away the referee. Oh wait, what's happening? They actually restarted the fight, and seconds later Brennan submits him with the Kimura. So right off the bat, a double submission
Chris
in
Brennan's
my first fight.
Kimura master.
Yeah, I always.
He's got a lot of great setups.
Lot of great setups.
How's he doing right now? Did you hear it?
I haven't talked to him in a while.
me
Last
neither.
I saw him was at a UFC a couple years back. He said hi, and I know he was teaching in Dallas.
I think on social media every so often I see him, and I think he's
He's a very
in the
successful
gym.
instructor.
Right.
You know, he's a very good jiu-jitsu instructor on top of being a very good fighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
No,
know?
that was it's so many
Yeah, man.
memories, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
mean, you
Sakuraba,
guys-
right? Sakuraba all the way back. Also at the UFC, a double tap. Remember
Right.
the armbar against Conan?
Silveira, Conan Silveira, right?
And Murillo Bustamante. Remember when
I
he
think
fought,
even our good friend Big John said that was the biggest. He owned up to it too. But that the guy doesn't make many mistakes. But that one, I know that he in the book regretted greatly, obviously. So
Yeah.
But yeah. And so you were saying Murillo Bustamante.
Yeah, in the UFC against. God damn it! How the fuck am I not
Was
remembering?
it from Team Quest?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
Matt Lindland.
Matt
Matt Lindland.
Yes,
How the fuck did I not
yes.
remember
Yeah,
that? We
no,
just
no,
talked about
no.
that the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yes.
got Matt Lindland an armbar.
Yeah.
Matt Lindland tapped. He said he didn't tap. They restarted again.
Yep.
And then he got him in a guillotine the next round.
Exactly. It's
just,
That was
Should've
when
choked him
Murillo was
out.
on top of the world.
Oh man, well,
Murillo was so
man, what a
good.
great rivalry too back in prime. BTT and Shooter Box,
Oh,
man.
yeah,
it
man.
it was to the point where they, even walking by each other, it's like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? It was so intense, very intense rivalry, which made for some legendary matchups. We
Well,
were talking
for
on the way
fans,
here.
It was giant. I mean, you guys represented like this Wild West. You know, it was everything was crazy. You know,
It was out of control.
But that's the thing, but there were also, at the time, these were the best
Right.
of the best. But you're right, it
Yeah.
was also the mix of what we already talked about. But we were talking on the way here. Mauricio Shogun Rua, remember, 23 years old, goes through Quinton Rampage Jackson, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, one of the best fights in Pride history, and then in one night, Alistair Overeem and Ricardo Rona to win that Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And, say what Jon Jones did at 23. God bless him, man. One of the best. But Mauricio Shogun Rua, a beast at that age, man.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a lot of guys, and it's almost like I would have loved to have seen what Nogueira in his prime would have been able to do in the UFC, and I would have loved to seen what Fedor in his prime.
Yep.
Because essentially, when Nogueira fought Fedor, he was in his prime.
Yes.
I mean, was that pre or post Bob Sapp?
That was after, because he fought Sapp at
he
the
fought-
National Stadium
yeah,
at
the
Shockwave, where he got
91,500
dropped
people.
on his.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
the problem with that is anything post Bob Sapp, you have to take into consideration how much damage he took
Well,
from Bob Sapp,
that's-
because he got beat the fuck up
That
in
was
that
Sapp's-
fight, dropped
yeah.
on his head.
I
Yeah,
thought he killed him.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought when we were doing the commentating, I go, oh, here we got. This is our first death.
Yeah.
Right? When he pile
Oh,
drives
yeah.
him into the
Well,
ground.
it was
He
like,
pile dropped him head first, and he's 350 pounds.
What about it's similar with the Monsterplex, right? Our dearly departed friend Kevin Randleman, when fresh off of upsetting Mirko Cro Cop, he goes
Yeah.
and drops Fedor
yeah.
on his head. And again, Fedor Emelianenko, like you say, would have been very good to see what we would have done in his prime, because even despite being dropped on his head, calmly, coolly regrouped, and then submits Randleman with the Kimura armbar a minute and a half later.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, Fedor in his prime. It's the one thing that was. I mean, it's actually just interesting. It's cool to see those old videos and watch those old fights. But there's something about like epic matchups between great fighters, like the opportunity of Kane Velasquez in his prime versus Fedor in his prime. I would have loved to see that.
would have been
Kane
something,
before
yeah.
all these injuries. I would have loved to see that.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, who didn't?
Well, we did get to see Mirko and Fedor, which were at the time, I mean, that was
Amazing.
the
That was
most
it.
anticipated heavyweight fight in MMA history in
And what's
2005.
most amazing about that fight is Fedor beat him standing.
That's exactly.
Beat him
He's the one
standing.
that adapted
He is-
and beat Mirko at his most potent weapon.
He's that
crazy.
guy that his striking, it looks not technical.
Right.
But when he strikes, it's perfect. You know,
Especially-
there's no load up whatsoever. He holds his fist still, and from here, boop, it goes forward.
Yeah.
You can't tell when he shots. He's accurate. He's an
Remember the entry into
complete
the
animal.
guard, and
That
when it
was the
cost him. Remember the
coolest thing.
headbutt with Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira in the final of the tournament. But yeah, the way he would enter the guard, and I think that's what Fabricio Verdum did his homework, because remember Verdum almost baited. Well, he did. He baited him when he submitted him,
Yeah.
and I think Verdum,
Well, there was
looking
a
back,
Kosaka fight also, right? when Kosaka fought Fedor. You remember
The first time or the rematch?
the rematch.
Okay,
in Pride.
Right.
That he was throwing these bombs, and I'm doing the commentating. I said, well, he's really overcommitting. He should watch out that he doesn't fall in a triangle choke.
Right.
And then they brought that piece and they put it next to the piece when he fought for Doom. And
Yep,
that's exactly what happened. He was overcommitting, and right away they slapped on that triangle choke.
Yeah,
That
Verdum
first
is
blemish
just a
against TK
different man.
though was ridiculous, right? The elbows. It was in rings. That was an egregious error. It should not have been.
I don't remember that
Remember
fight.
the
That was
elbow? It
against
was
Kosaka?
elbows. Yeah, the
He was all
cuts to the
cut up.
elbows.
That's why they stopped the fight. He didn't
Come
really
on,
stop.
man.
Yeah, no.
It should have been a victory.
Was there no elbows allowed on the ground? Is that what the problem was?
Man, when I think back now, the rule it seemed like there was no
But
real
rings
rule.
had no ground and pound, right?
Yes, and they also there was came from a
Those
wrestling
works, yeah.
and then into the
How was
shoot.
rings you could hit to the body on the ground? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, was that it?
I have
Bus?
no clue.
They
I feel like you couldn't hit to the head on the ground. They had
that's-
some weird rules.
Well, in a promotion that introduced people to people like Fedor, Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, Dan Henderson. I mean, Hinaldo Babalu Sobral. Rings
Produced
that's
a
the
whole
thing,
bunch of great
Japan,
fighters.
man. I wish would have been nice to have our friend join us for some of those fights.
I should have definitely made a trip over there just to watch. Because I was thinking of flying to see Fedor fight against Mitrione.
Why didn't you, my man? Why didn't you ever make it
hasn't
over
even
there?
come- Oh, I was just busy.
No, not this
busy
one, but
with life.
Yeah.
Life, but I feel like that's one of the things that I probably should have saw was Pride in its prime.
I
when
always
you guys
tell
were
people
selling
that.
out 90,000
Yep.
seats.
I remember Dana. He came for the first time. They were sitting first row. And I remember when I looked back, when the opening started, I looked back and he's with his mouth open. He looks around. He goes, this is the craziest experience. And I remember looking at him. I go, right? This is crazy. I mean, it was insane. He brought Chuck, you remember?
Yeah.
At that time to fight in the tournament.
Chuck
fight in the
tournament,
That's
tournament.
right. Alistair Overeem, Quentin
Yep.
Rampage Jackson. He
Yeah.
fought. But okay, well there you go. The UFC used to have the ramp and the elaborate entrances, and I know they wanted to separate from my other line of employment, WWE, and the wrestling aspect. But I know Bellator does a pretty decent job with their entrances and stuff. Do you think that is something that could help UFC now, or is it you like the boxing entrance? It's pure, the sport aspect of it, because I think fans. In Japan, man, I mean, the production values were ridiculous, and
was crazy.
I think it added to the experience.
Well, it's definitely a different thing. Whether or not it's better, I don't know, man. I just like this past UFC with Ronda Rousey and
Yes.
Amanda Nunes walking down the tunnel. I like just watching
I agree.
that.
And that's
that's what I
Floyd
want to
Mayweather,
see.
all those guys. Yeah, I agree.
I don't give a fuck about fireworks.
Yeah.
I'm not a little kid.
Yeah,
I want to see what someone's face looks like when
Yeah.
they're about to go to war.
Yeah.
You know, when I watch the UFC, most of the time, it's recorded. I turn my phones off, and that's where I go fast forward. I go to the fights. Right?
Yeah.
Only when you pick something up from the internet, they go like,
Exactly.
"Oh man, that was a cool entrance." Like, "Oh, no, let's take a look at that." So then
Right.
I have a little bit of idea, but that's how shows
Yeah.
how much I
wonder in-house,
enjoy
though.
it.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
the video footage that the Pride Fighting Championships had, and especially the one with Fedor
Fedor
and Cro
and-
Cop.
and-
Yeah.
Cro Cop crying,
Wow,
and
wow,
it was
wow.
No,
it was
this
insane.
pageantry was amazing
Yeah,
for sure.
They were like movie trailers.
Yeah.
Before the fight, they'd show you the movie trailer.
And they were not allowed to show it to the American audience for some reason. They had this. I don't know why that was.
Idiots.
They weren't allowed to show the movie trailer part of it.
No, that was Tokyo TV or whoever had that contract.
Fuji TV.
Fuji TV, and
used
they
to
said,
give like $5 million a show.
Well, it was always weird for us when your shows would either be on at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'd have guys over at my house at 4 o'clock in the morning. Everybody would be drinking Red Bull, trying to stay awake, and then Pride would come on.
Yeah.
Or you guys would have the fights, and then it would air on TV a while later, later.
Yeah, I tried to break that. I was calling all the winners in, to see with gambling if we could do something with that, but no, it didn't work.
Cubs win the World Series in 2015.
But everybody knew the results, because of all the websites.
Yeah.
So you'd just watch to see what happened.
It never
But isn't
really
fighting
works.
the
Life
one
is the best.
sport? Combat sports is the one. Forget football, baseball, hockey, everything else. I don't care if I know the result. I will watch a fight.
Yeah, if I know the result, I'll watch a fight too.
It's just.
Yeah.
I think it's the. It's the
But it's not as
art,
good.
Meryl Streep. No, it's not as good,
Yeah.
but it's still. I don't know. There's some maybe because it's more digestible size, but I find fighting to be something I will watch. Other than if I record a hockey game and I know the score, well, then screw it, I'm not watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was reading some of the responses to Meryl Streep. Like, Jesus Christ.
She just blasted 4 Olympic sports. That's what I said.
But okay, you're the entertainer, you're the comedian. In what context do you think my knee-jerk reaction, same thing. Hey, love me some Meryl Streep, but why do you have to trash MMA? I'm wondering if she didn't even ever, know what mixed martial arts was. Someone gave her the word with arts in it, and she made the time. Well, it's not even arts.
But football doesn't say football arts, right? She went after NFL also.
Well, she went after mixed martial arts because she said the word arts, and then she riffed it.
You're right.
And she said, which, by the way, is not the arts.
Yes.
Like, okay, well, what arts? It's not the art of pretending. You're right. It's the art of execution under extreme circumstances. Very difficult circumstances, highly trained opponent trying to smash bones in your face, incredibly difficult to do.
Advantage
and when
Rogan.
it's done right, it's artistic. You can't tell me when
100%.
Anderson Silva landed that front kick to Vitor Belfort's face and you
That's
see
not
Vitor's
art.
legs given. That's art.
That's art.
What about
Yeah.
Rio Chonan on Anderson
Oh,
Silva
yeah, that
and
flying
the
scissor
flying
hook.
scissor hook? And
Right into the heel hook. That was incredible.
Art.
That was like
Art.
a movie scene, man.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah.
is art.
Yeah, how
It's
about a brutal piece of art is
striking.
when Quentin Rampage Jackson, that
Arona?
Ricardo Arona slam. Oh my God.
He arches backwards
Oh, my
in
God.
order to slam him
Oh.
forward. I don't even know how he
someone
kept his
call that?
balance.
Didn't someone actually call that shot a few seconds before it happened?
Did you call that? You say it was going to come?
I saw it coming, believe it or not.
Jesus Christ.
I
why
saw
did
it coming.
Arona hold on to that
Yeah, why
triangle?
did he hold on?
You got to let go of that fucking thing,
But
man.
then the replay, though, you did see this. They did smash heads
They
violently
did.
as well. But you're right. Why did he hold on?
He was probably gone anyway, man,
Yeah.
even if they
Yep.
didn't smash heads.
Yep.
The impact was so brutal. Arona was essentially never the same again.
No.
He never really fought well again after that fight.
And there was a guy,
up
too,
until
with so
then.
much potential, right?
Yeah, a lot of
Wanderlei and but there, you know what's funny? We're talking again, Paulo Filho, another guy.
Oh, he went crazy, though,
Yeah,
remember?
he did.
Yeah, he
but
went a
it's
little
just,
nutty.
you see Gegard Mousasi, the evolution of him and what he's now doing in the
He's
UFC.
at the brink right now,
I
man.
agree.
He's at the door of the,
I
the
like
top guys in 185.
I like it.
I need to say about Arona, because I was interviewing Arona and he had a cup of tea, like Japanese green tea, was standing here. And somebody, and it was so cool, and he kept his cool so good, pushed the thing and fell off. And he's sitting and he does this. Tuk. And he comes up with the cup. He grabbed it. He didn't even look at it. I go, dude. And he kept his cool because I know in his mind he's going to go, I got it. I got it. But just not looking, go, tuck. And he brings it back up and he sets it down. And I go,
I
man,
do love it.
those are some great
Jiu-jitsu
reflexes.
Stud.
Oh.
He was a jiu-jitsu stud, as was Paulo Filho.
Yeah.
Paulo
Yeah.
Filho was one of those guys. He got you on the ground, man. He was a fucking pit
Do
bull.
you remember? Well, you just called a fight. Luis Azeredo and Luis Firmino in Bushido 6, I
Gobi?
want to say. It was, to me, the earliest example for me and Pride, one of the best grappling fights I'd ever seen in an MMA arena. I remember Ricardo Arona and Dean Lister in their rematch from the Abu Dhabi, and we were pumping the crap out of it, and wasn't the most fan-friendly
waking up
fight,
right
my
now.
friend.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you guys about this while it's on my mind, because I'm thinking about grappling matches. What did you guys think about Aoki? How Aoki used to wear those tights? And, when he went to fight in the
Right.
U.S., they wouldn't let him wear the tights. Eddie Bravo and I have talked about this a million times. Like, I don't see a problem with him wearing the tights. Like, why?
Does
I think
it
they look
absorb
cool.
the sweat?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
well,
then it has more traction
Right,
with
traction
armbar
is
triangle chokes.
the
But girls can wear, like, rash guard tops,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Can they cover their arms? Can girls cover their arms?
I don't know.
I don't know.
No, they should not be allowed to do that.
I don't.
Well,
Yeah.
I wonder.
It seems
Because
like-
I know what you're
right?
saying. So why? Okay, so why do you think he should have been allowed to just?
It's fun.
But yeah,
when I watch Aoki fight in
Oh,
Pride,
man.
man, it was fun.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
would wrap dudes up with his crazy legs.
Pride,
Pride,
and
because
Minari.
there's rainbow
Remember
colors.
Masakazu
Oh,
Minari and his leg
Minari's
attacks? Oh, I
incredible
love those
leg
leg
attacks.
attacks, man.
Minari was
Blew
awesome.
Minari rolled.
George Gurgel's ACL out.
Right,
man.
yes. Although
Roll on your knees, man.
Joachim Hansen, when the walk-off knee to
Yeah.
Minari. There's another guy. I wonder why he never
Yeah.
came to the UFC.
Well,
Because I
he
know I
didn't
heard
want
stories.
to.
Yeah, that's right.
He apparently didn't want, when the UFC bought Pride
Yep.
and they had the contracts, he apparently didn't want to come over.
Right.
He also has been in a ton of wars.
Oh, man.
And, I think he just fought again recently.
Yeah, well, I thought that's what I'd read, and if he
Yeah.
retired, he's from Norway, right? Maybe in Europe, but
Remember
what
Joaquin?
he was powerful from
Oh,
his back.
man.
Remember, he was one
Yep.
of the few guys that could actually hurt you from back position.
I saw one guy, a Russian, one time, who knocked somebody out who mounted him.
Really?
He laid on his back and he big swing, and he wins the fight, knocks the guy out while the guy had mounted him.
Eve Edwards said that Dwayne Ludwig broke his orbital bone when Dwayne was on his back. Dwayne swung up and cracked Eve in the eyeball and broke his orbital from the bottom.
Yves Edwards, he did the coolest thing, what I always wanted to do when
the
fight,
knee,
when they hold a single leg. You know, at the, was it Elite XC, right?
Berto, yeah, I think that's in Berto.
He stands on one leg, and then he jumps up, knees him in the head, knocks him out like that. I go, dude, I'm telling my students about this, that you can do this, but I never did it.
Right.
That's an awesome
Man,
move.
he was a part, he
trained a lot with me as well.
Yeah, he and Hansen actually had that great fight on...
let's see it here, let's see it here.
Yeah, Hansen Berto, there you go.
One leg, he stands on one leg.
It's beautiful. Eve Edwards is a talented guy.
His first fight in Pride against... Joachim Hansen, we talked about a split decision, but buddy, that show, Joe, to me, maybe, I mean, Pride had so many legendary cards as well, but everyone always asks me who, I want to get into Pride Fighting Championships. What do I watch? Well, lots. I always tell them to start with Bushido 9, the tournament, where you had where that fight, the fight with Hansen and. We just talked about Edwards, but how about Gomi, 2 Fight of the Year candidates in one night against Luis Azevedo and Tatsuya Kawajiri, Dan Henderson, Gono, and Chonan. Tremendous night of fights, bro.
Yeah, and those are some of the ones that kind of get lost.
Yes.
They get forgotten about.
Were you talking about
Fight
Enson
Pass,
Inoue?
Fight Pass.
Yeah, Fight Pass.
Were you mentioning Enson Inoue, or who were you mentioning? Because I have a funny story with Enson.
No, not Enson. Oh,
and you.
I bet you have
What's
a funny
the story about
Enson.
Enson? What happened?
He challenged him. Mauro challenged Enzo.
Well, let's rewind then, shall we?
Oh my God.
Mr. Mark Coleman and Kevin Randleman, we were in Boss's hotel room. This is after Pride event. We don't know which one. And Pride back then loved to party, loved to experiment, and I'm a good, humble, innocent Canadian boy who hadn't really gotten out much, Joe. And
when we say experiment, we're talking about like my kind of experiment?
Well, Boss,
and so Mauro, we'll come to that.
Boss says, Mauro, have you ever taken a Percocet? I'm like, what? And he's like, have you ever taken a Percocet? So I'm, of course, looking it up. Painkiller. Well, the hell would I want to know? And I'm not that interested. Come on, you got to try it. I said, oh, okay, well, why not? So you gave me 3 Percocets, dude, not 1, 3. So I take these things. Okay, fine, just whatever. Coleman and Randleman walk in, and all of a sudden, I'm not feeling it, and you know me, I'm very impatient. I'm like, well, what the hell? It's not working. Randleman asks Boss, he goes, well, what do you give him? And Boss goes, I gave him 3 Percocet. You did what? And then all of a sudden, almost on cue, it hits me. And I end up, Enson Inoue was there with us as well visiting, and I end up, for some reason, going into my old pro wrestling manager heel mode and going right up to Enson and go, hey, I think I can take you, bro. I think I can take it. And I'm doing it and I'm really just kind of needling him. And he's trying to be nice. He knows, okay, this is the English announcer, cool, whatever. But I'm pushing it because I'm impacted by Percocets.
Right, but are you thinking that you're doing a performance?
No, but that's the thing. I felt like I was high. I was like,
you were out of your head.
I was out of my mind, man.
So you really thought in some strange world that you were going to be able to beat up Enson Inoue.
I don't think I could beat him up. Joe, but I challenged him to fight. He finally had enough. Face palmed me, broke my glasses, and I got a bloody nose. And I'm like, well, now I got to wear the badge of honor. And I took the picture with him and Enson, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'll be doing Percocets anymore. I'll stick to
Is that the only time you've ever challenged a trained killer?
Yes, thank you. Yes, and never again, thanks to the Percocets.
You're lucky Enson's a good guy.
He is a really good guy.
Yeah, we all jumped in front of Mauro when he hit the ground. We said, okay, this is over. We're not going to.
Do you remember when Enson armbarred Randy Couture?
Yes.
And he was one of the first guys I ever saw throw really hard kicks to the legs from his guard.
Yes.
And I remember watching that going, oh, look at this, because he would prop himself up on his back arm and whip that leg into it. And he hit Randy with some hard kicks off of his back.
But what about our boy, boy Frank Shamrock? Taught Enson Inoue a lesson, and of course almost resulted in the rampage when his brother, what's Enson's brother's name? Egan? Egan.
I mean,
it was like a brawl.
Always fighting.
Oh yeah, they were
always fighting.
Yeah,
if they lost,
it almost became a brawl
fighting.
because of what Frank did. And speaking of brawls, how about Coleman and Mauricio Shogun Hua, when Hua went to post, broke his arm, and shoot a box and Hammer House, Phil Baroni's, Wanderlei Silva stamping on Phil Baroni's head. Pride was wild, bro.
Yeah.
It was amazing shit
Crazy.
going on down there.
You guys had like real street fights in the back.
Oh, yeah. Well, then,
Crazy
High and
horse.
Gracie,
And then
just
Diaz-
walking into the place, High and Gracie decides out of the blue, I have no clue why, to pull the fire alarm.
Wow.
This is before the whole show
and
starts.
Saitama, and buddy, the extinguisher fell, like a colored extinguisher, and he's screaming, yeah!
Everything falls out of the freaking
So the
ceiling.
fire retardant,
Fire
flame
retardant, that's
material.
Yeah, he released it. He
sprayed
released
into
it.
the sky, and the show went on anyway.
The show
Yeah,
went on,
yeah.
but he's just walking, and suddenly he separates himself from the group, and he hits that
Man,
thing.
you know
Did
what?
he fight that night?
That
He
was
fought that night. That was the night, the first time when he said,
Well, the first, yeah, that's right. The
But he
very
started
first
screaming.
Bushido was
Yeah, yeah.
the first time 5 members of the Gracie family had ever competed on the same card, although Daniel by marriage, right? So you had Henzo and Carlos Nunes. So you had Henzo, Hyan, Rodrigo, Daniel, and who was the other one I'm missing
No
now?
disrespect, but the Daniel thing is a weird one.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
is that your last name or is it your wife's last name?
Yeah,
What in the fuck is going on here, sir?
I went to a boxing gym one time. If I just could use the boxing, the ring, to train. And the guy comes to me and he says, if you want, I can teach you some groundwork. He says, I'm a Gracie. I say, you're a Gracie? Yeah. I'm married to a Gracie.
Oh,
He was
so
married
became
to a Gracie.
by
He pulled-
marrying a
That's it.
woman. How strange.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
you're right. And he, but that night, Hyan took the mic after and went off. I mean, using every expletive known to man, just snapped because of the
Yoshida,
Hidehiko
right?
Yoshida Hoist Gracie controversy. And
Well, Hyan was the craziest of all.
we
Oh,
had some
man.
good
But you know
times
what?
with
We
that
had some
guy.
good times with him.
Oh.
Real good times. What a like you say, a tortured soul. But to us anyway, always one of the few, not few, a lot of guys, but he always went out of his way to make me, I mean, you're a legend, but to make the nothing announcer feel good. He always came up, Mauro, good to see you. And
Well, once you
very
challenged
tense.
Ensign, you probably got the respect of pretty much everybody.
Now I'm thinking that whole crazy altercation we had with all the bouncers. That was Randleman also, and he did.
Buddy,
both
the
on,
very first New Year's Eve we spent in Japan for Shockwave, it was you, Kevin Randleman, Hyan Gracie, Quentin
and
Rampage.
Quentin left the group because he knew this is going to go wrong.
When Quentin
all
Rampage
people,
Jackson
Jackson
is the
left.
sensible man. Boy, what a mad group you guys
At the
have.
end of the night, though, the one that made the most sense was this guy.
Yeah.
You were the one that kept the peace because Kevin was losing his mind, and even Hyan Gracie kept saying, Mauro, don't worry, we'll be okay. And I'm like, why? He goes, just trust me, we're okay. And I swear to God, I thought he might have had a gun.
Well, what are you saying? Like, what was going on? You would be okay about.
Okay, so go ahead.
We bought some weed from some bouncers there, and I didn't look because it's a felony there. So
Right.
I just get it and we walk off. And while we walk off, we realize that I pick it out and say, "Oh, that is not enough." So I go back. And I say, guys, that's not enough. You need to give me more. And he goes, no, it's not going to happen. And he has this attitude. I say, okay, well, let me do it different. I'm going to be back in 10 minutes. We are going to be back in 10 minutes. And then it better be here. So we walk around and we thought, maybe we should light up at least. We relax. And we're in this weird, what is it? There's mailboxes. Like it's an
it was
entrance
Roppongi.
to an
We were in
apartment
Roppongi.
complex. And suddenly... Randleman starts jumping up, and he starts getting angry, and he hits a mailbox, and then Ryan starts, and I'm trying to keep both these guys down, and I go, no, you guys, relax. I go, shut up, my friend. I say to Ryan, and Ryan go, don't talk to me like this. I say, come on, man, are you really doing this right now? And we get this whole fight goes on. I said, no, we got to relax, stay relaxed, you smoke a little weed, we're going to go back. Now, finally, everybody calm down, we go back, and these guys probably called somebody, but, no, first of all,
These
we
were
walk
two
back to
big guys,
and
by
they
the
were
way.
two big guys. And I walk over, I say, we need it right now. And they say, we need to wait because they're bringing it right now. So right away already, we're looking back. And sure enough, there's two big guys coming also, same clothes as they have. And you see them very sturdy walking up to us. And as soon as they see us, they make a 180 and they talk back. And the phone goes from the guy. And I go, those are the guys calling you right now, telling you got to give it up. And he goes, he opens the phone and the guy, he says, okay. And he puts it down and he gave us a whole mountain.
Yeah, the two guys recognized him as being the pride fighting badasses. It was right out of a movie, man. It was hilarious.
But
yeah.
in the whole altercation, when everybody started jumping, that's when Quentin left.
Yes,
He
Quentin
goes,
said,
I'm not going to stay at this. Oh,
I'll
it
go
was
chase
out of
the
control.
ladies.
That's
Aye, aye, aye.
hilarious.
Yeah, well, great times.
Yeah, crazy times. Those are good times.
Yep.
How much of a presence was the whole Yakuza thing while you guys were there? Like how aware of it were you guys?
No, I was aware of it, but nobody would notice. You know,
And
the
honestly,
Yakuza
for me,
doesn't have his
never.
hands in drugs. They don't do anything like that. But real
You saw
estate,
people
it
in the
shows like
crowd.
this.
You saw people sitting down that, that
Did you see
looks
people with
interesting.
they were missing fingers and
Oh,
tattooed
yeah,
bodysuits
the
and
guy who
stuff?
put this tattoo on. Remember
yeah,
that?
Bro,
Oh,
that was
man.
a crazy. That was where Masato, the kickboxer, was training in the
but Mickey
dungeon.
Rourke was there also,
Mickey
I think.
Rourke was
and we were
there.
in this strip club. And this guy sits there and with long hair, and he comes over to me and says, "Hey, how you doing?" Like a little feminine, really weird. He goes, "I'm your biggest fan. I'm your biggest fan." I said, "Oh, now we got this crazy guy here, right?" And I had no clue what to think. And he says, "Oh, you're a great fighter. You want to know what I do?" And he takes his shirt off, and he's all tatted up, and people start literally leaving the place there. And I realized he's Yakuza, right? So we started talking, and I was talking about a tattoo that I wanted in this color. I said, but in America it's hard to find. At the time, people only wanted to use black ink. And he says, "No, that's not hard at all. Why don't you come tomorrow morning, and I can do this for you." So the next day, he and we go to this dungeon like 5 stories under the ground, right? It was the weirdest place. We opened the door. There's a cage, with a bag that Masato actually used to train on, apparently,
in that cage.
in a cage with 2 Dobermans. And they fly up against the thing. It's like there's human skulls everywhere.
Yes.
There's pictures of books killing people.
Yeah.
This guy, we come in, he starts screaming, and all the people who are getting tattooed at that moment, they all get up and they run out of this place. They lock the door, and I look at Mara and say,
I'm like,
"Ooh,
I'm
what's
like,
going to
I'm
happen
getting out
now?"
of
You
here.
know, because this is a really weird situation. But no, he put me
No,
on
he
the
was
table,
huge.
put the
He did
tattoo
good
on,
work.
and he did a great work, you know. But he started to look. We made it pictures.
Oh, yeah, I was
still
taking
have to
pictures.
find
I was
that,
taking video of you. I was
yeah,
trying
because
to-
I have a skull with a bullet hole in there.
I was going to actually record an
"Whoa."
audio will as well because
So you
not
said
knowing.
there was a cage where Masato used to
Apparently,
train?
that's what they
Masato
said.
the kickboxer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, "Who
The
trains
K1
you?"
champion?
Masato.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So he would train in a cage in a basement.
Well,
5 stories below.
Yeah.
I mean, we kept going down. It was the craziest thing. If you think about all the
Wow.
earthquakes they have,
Yeah.
you know, you go like
And
that.
I don't know if it was
this
his
is a safe
regular
place, but
training.
also with the Dobermans in there.
yeah, I don't know if it was his regular training, Joe, but that's what the guy said, that it was Masato. He may have even maybe had an interest. in
Remember
that.
when Masato fought Cool Vince Phillips?
Ooh, Vince Phillips.
Cool Vince Phillips, the boxer.
Yeah, the boxer.
American boxing champion.
The boxer, right?
Yeah, and he went over and fought Masato, and Masato lit those legs up.
Masato's an animal at that
Oh.
time. I mean, even against the Dutch guys,
See
he
if
was
you can
insane.
find that, Jamie.
Yeah.
See, you can find Masato versus Vince Phillips. It's really interesting to
He
see like a
lit,
top
he lit those
flight.
legs up like a Christmas tree, boss.
You know
If
what
you
the
can
best
see
thing?
a top flight American boxer fight against a kickboxer, you know, in his
Yeah.
prime.
Oh, here we
K1
go.
Max 2003.
Here we are.
Yeah, but you know, in
You did the commentating, Mauro.
Vince
This is-
Phillips, in his defense, he was beyond his prime. You see his body had started to fade.
Well-
but he look at that, he's kicked across the legs.
Well, who was it that took one kick and got out of the ring? Ray Mercer?
Was it? No, Ray
who-
Mercer knocked
no,
out.
Mercer was with the Kimbo in the MMA thing. But who was the fighter who went to Japan, the American boxer, and took one kick and stopped, got out of the
Oh,
ring?
was it K1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I thought
Tommy
it was
Morrison?
Not Morrison.
No.
I forgot
No.
now. Yeah, sorry,
A
but it
blonde
was
guy.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a blonde guy.
But look at Masato was awesome.
And
Well,
the boxing
still is.
stance doesn't really help for the right
No,
low
he
kicks
was
because
getting
you
his
can't check
arms
it
lit
all.
up too. And Masato
Oh,
was going across.
jeez.
He was going across the arms and then across the back leg too. Rob Kamen style. He did a lot of that, and he just moved a lot and just kicked those legs like every time. Like there, you see Phillips is already starting to wear down. And Masato was a good boxer too, man. It's like you couldn't deny his hands. I mean, he might not have been the same boxer that Vince Phillips was in his prime, but with all those leg kicks, it makes such a difference.
Do you remember Gomi and Pulver at Shockwave? I thought that was some of the best MMA boxing, boss, we'd seen at that time. With,
Gomi at the
with
time was
Gomi.
really good.
And
as
even
well.
Pulver, right?
That's
It
it.
goes down.
He just couldn't get up.
Did you remember
So
that
many
fight,
leg
Joe?
kicks.
The legs
With
totally
Pulver and
relaxed as
Gomi?
well there.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
bo-
Gomi knocked him down.
Yep. What about
Stopped him.
Haratonov as well? Sergei Haratonov early in Pride showed good boxing. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
everyone has that debate and argument about boxing, how would they do it? MMA. We know it's two different sports, but when it comes to that aspect of MMA, the boxing.
Well, Sergey went into K1.
Right.
And Sergey, he had quite a few K1 fights.
Yep.
And then recently got back into MMA, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, he didn't do well in his Bellator debut. Yeah,
but he got clipped.
Yeah.
Complete animal,
shot.
man. That guy. He used to train with Fedor. I remember all the way back. That was one big group because I remember the split at the time. And Vovchanchyn, what happened to him? Vovchanchyn, he was a really great guy too. He was so funny, a nice guy.
Yep.
One of the scariest stoppages I ever saw was against Semi Schilt. Do you remember when he mounted Semi Schilt and got on top of him in like a mounted triangle and started smashing his eye? Karatanov got on top of him.
That's right.
And he's just punching him. Whoa, hey everybody! He's just punching him in one eye over and over and over again.
Yeah, I remember that. Semi Schilt, man, such a physical.
He didn't have
Stuff it there.
presence.
Yeah, he just didn't have the ground game
exactly.
to deal with Karatanov back then. And Karatanov just took him on top. I mean, that was back when Semi was beating everybody in K1 with that long front kick. Remember he had that crazy long front kick?
But Vovchanchyn, at the time, the first time I saw Vovchanchyn, I was commentating this fight in Ukraine. And it was a wild. That was a really. The whole trip was a wild trip. Ask Charlie Angelo, from Vegas. But he fought in an 8-man tournament. He was the lightest guy, like 190 pounds.
He won a lot of tournaments.
And he destroyed all these guys. I think the lightest guy he fought was Paul Verlins. That was the lightest guy. And then he 200
Verlins was like 330.
Oh, dude, it was insane. I mean, and he just knocked everybody out. And I go like, this Vovchanchyn guy is pretty good. That was my.
I remember he fought on this big giant mat once. They did something. It was almost like they matted up a basketball court with like white mats, and he fought on it.
Wow.
It's an interesting thing, but I've been bringing this up a lot lately. I really think MMA would be better off with a larger surface and no cage. Just like a basketball court, just like that size.
For sight lines, definitely, I agree with you. And just for
the clinch game up against the cage?
Yeah,
all that would be gone.
Anymore. That's cool.
Metamoris type fighting surface for MMA?
The problem with Metamoris is it's elevated.
Right.
Like, you don't want dudes falling off.
No, exactly. Yeah. But that kind of, you like that open space.
Yeah, big. I think a big open space on the ground, just matted ground.
The Yama? Well, Yama still had a cage, though, too. Right?
Yeah, they had that dip, too.
That dip.
But it's for cameras, it's not going to work. It's going to be very hard for the audience to see as well, because it's all one level.
But isn't that what they say now, that a lot of people...
basketball court is. Well, basketball court's all one level.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, a lot of people say, though, when they go to an event, that they are watching the screen because of that, right?
Yeah.
But
I think you could do it on a basketball court.
Yeah, but
I just think that
they still see here the basketball boards, the people on the floor. They can at least see the cage, the bottom of the cage. But if somebody sits in front of them, they can't see anything.
Well, if you have tiered seating, if you have tiered like stadium-style seating, and then there'll be a front row, and then there's got to be some sort of dividing line, because you don't want to get run over if you're in the front row. Some fucking gorilla.
It's like wrestling, college wrestling.
Yeah. If Big Ben Rothwell comes piling through and slams on your girlfriend and breaks both their legs.
Or Travis Brown.
Or, anybody who's in the front row.
It could be a problem.
That could be an issue. The front row could be an issue. But as long as they can keep people from piling into the crowd. Yep. Because if you could have that, you would be able to watch something happen with no cage. There's one thing that I see over and over again. It's a very grueling aspect to MMA when guys are tied up against the cage and they're clinching and they're throwing knees to the body and they're throwing elbows in tight. And it is a grueling sort of, but it's also grueling in an artificial way. It's artificial that they're pressed up against something.
Right.
And that cage becomes a factor in the fight when it doesn't have to be a factor. I think the more factors you can remove, like extraneous factors outside of your opponent, the better. A wall is an extraneous factor.
Yeah.
And you could use it to your advantage. You press people up, you take them down with it. There's a lot of things you could do to get back up from it. But I really feel like it's an extraneous...
What about an automatic break? Or is that taking too much then away from the fight? If you go against the fence, okay, stop. It's still ruin it, right?
That's no good.
The fans on electricity on the fans. You can do that. That would be something. I said it actually at Pride Fighting Championships when they were holding.
People who are total savages, they would hold someone down against the fence to see who could take the pain the most. Both of you.
Oh, I would do that. Just grab the fence and shove him into it.
You're both jolted, frozen up. Your ears are smoking.
Soon.
Yeah.
But you know, the difference going from a ring to a cage is already huge.
Yeah.
Because there's no corners, so I can only imagine
Right.
that. Because
Man,
no more wall walking, no more everything.
that Bernard Hopkins knockout last week.
Oh yeah.
When you saw him go through,
Hopkins,
the
horrible,
first time. Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
Not last week, last month.
Yeah,
Actually.
yeah,
but when he
December.
went through that ring like that and fell down on his head, I was
His
like,
head.
how do they not protect against this?
Yep.
Well,
I
I
know
know
this
Pride
doesn't
has
happen
happened.
that
If you
often.
remember, there was an
With
Army
Frank.
of Pride fight. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, Frank
Frank and I, we
yeah.
flew out
in
of the ring as well.
Pancrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
in Pride,
you
they
can get
have
really
an army of
fucking hurt
people,
that
right?
way.
They were
Yeah.
already there with their numbers on their back. Remember those guys? But that was always one of the problems about the Pride ring, right? You
Well, it
force a
happens
break.
in lion fight too. I was
Yep.
watching one of Kyle Hollenbeck's fights, and he fell out of the ring and smacked his knees on the edge of the apron
Yep.
as he was falling out.
I remember
It's just-
Marvin Eastman falling out of a ring in Vancouver, almost seriously hurting himself as well before he got the goat's vagina.
Why don't they have like a netting in between the ropes to prevent from people from falling through? It would still serve the same purpose.
You would think so, right?
You would
think.
Yeah. Or more vertical ropes as well in between.
Do you
Just a few
remember
more.
the old Valley Tudo fight between Pele and Chuck Liddell?
Yeah.
They had a net under the first rope. The bottom rope.
Oh,
there was a
right.
net.
They were
The net
shoving
around.
him in there.
Yeah.
Chuck was shoving him in there, and they were bare knuckle fighting.
Yeah.
Chuck was punching him in the face, bare knuckle.
Yeah, and he couldn't escape. He was just
Yeah,
locked him up
just
in the net
tucked in there,
like a fish.
getting the fuck beat out of him. Jesus Christ.
Gary Goodrich with the Pedro when he went
Oh.
to squeeze the pelotas.
Yeah, he went right into his
man.
pants and grabbed a hold of his junk and crushed his balls with his hand.
And he had some grip,
Wow.
man, I can tell
Oh,
you. You know, I had
God.
this.
Keith Hackney.
I was at the hotel one time getting a massage, and while I'm getting the massage, the girl, they put a towel over your face, right? So I don't know who's massaging me. And suddenly the massage gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and she starts crushing my shins, you know, like really hard. So I throw the towel and go, hey! And it's Big Daddy Goodrich. He walked in and he said, shh, to the girl. He starts taking over the massage, and then he squeezed the
hilarious.
crap out of my legs. So I know he has grip.
Yeah,
That's
what a
awesome.
crazy thing. That was a rule. You were allowed to grab the balls. And so he
And
What
There
about
you
the
go.
new
That's
rules?
the
What about the rules? We'll never see knees to the head, right? Under the unified rules, they just implemented some more rules. Didn't they? You wanted to get rid of the midnight to or 12 to 6.
Yeah, that's a
rule,
stupid rule.
but
It
they
makes no
haven't
sense.
changed that, right?
Yeah, we should explain to people what it means. In mixed martial arts, you're not allowed to drop an elbow down from like vertical. You can't drop it from 12 to 6 on a clock. And the only reason why that was invented is back in the day when the commissions were approving MMA, Big John McCarthy had a meet with them, and they wouldn't let anybody do that because they had seen people break bricks on ESPN by dropping elbows like that. And like, if someone could break a brick, they could kill a person. And so
And
Big
they
John
can't do it like this, right? With
so
the forearm.
stupid.
It's so stupid.
It's so stupid. I mean, it's probably like one of the. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the weak. It might be my weakest elbow, but it's one of the weaker elbows.
Yeah.
I don't think it's nearly as strong as that kind of elbow.
Plus, if you hit a skull, and I can tell, it's all still splintered for me when I fought Randleman. And okay, that was from 3 to whatever you want to 9. You know, the horizontal elbows. But still,
You
you
have
don't
chunks
want to hit a
floating around in there
skull.
still?
It's yeah, you can feel these little pieces. You know, it's it's from the skull from Kevin.
Oh yeah,
Yikes.
yeah. That's it's just a dumb rule, you know. And that's the one blemish in Jon Jones' record when he fought
Yep,
Matt Hamill.
Matt
He
Hamill.
was dropping those elbows.
Oh yeah,
in.
yeah.
It'd be
That's stupid.
totally illegal.
Yeah. It was,
I don't know why they haven't put that back in.
yeah. Well, I thought that's what they were going to do. this
Maybe
time
if they
around.
maybe
haven't.
if they hit an eye socket,
yeah,
right?
maybe.
Then the eye could be really damaged. But then
But-
again, you know, that can
But
happen
you
everywhere.
could do that standing. Like someone could tomahawk you standing, and it could go right into your eye socket.
What about soccer kicks and stomps, Mr. Rogan?
Well, see, that's one of the things that we could have if we had a basketball court. You know, you would have soccer kicks on the ground, like for sure.
You like it?
should. I think so. Yeah, I think if
Very
you can,
violent ass
if you
member.
can punch somebody on the ground, you should be able to kick them on the
Remember
ground.
Vanderlei Silva
Oh,
and
holding
Yuki
the
Kondo, but he
ropes?
was first of all
And
breaking the
then
ropes. And remember
stomping?
stomping his head like
Yeah.
a grape. I couldn't believe it.
Tamura, right?
Kondo.
No.
Kondo. Vanderlei
Oh,
Silva
Yuki
against Yuki
Kondo, that's
Kondo,
right.
who's actually fighting in
right.
the Czech Republic.
He did it to Tamura, too.
41-year-old.
Didn't he do it to Tamura?
He did well.
He smashed
the,
it to,
the shooter box team, Mauricio Shogun, who loved those soccer kicks, man.
Yeah.
Soccer.
I mean, he pedal kicked his head.
Remember Rona
it was crazy.
disfiguring Sakuraba's face looked like the Elephant Man too? That there were some violent endings.
Well,
in
the most
Pride,
violent,
man.
I think, was probably when Sakuraba fought Melvin Manhoef.
Oh,
That was horrendous.
yeah,
Melvin
that-
was coming up in his prime, and
Yep.
Sakuraba was on the way down,
Yep.
and Melvin was arguably one of the scariest knockout
strikers
artists
ever.
of all time.
Yep.
Just unbelievably violent.
Yeah.
Just took violence to a totally different level. Knocked out Mark Hunt with one
Hunt.
punch.
You know,
18 seconds.
I want to talk about that fight. You know what I think? He had a double. Mark had a double knockout there, and you got to pull it up to see if I'm right. I believe, if my mind serves me
He was
well,
knocked out twice?
he was knocked out, and when he fell down, he hit the cup. Also for Manhoef, and we in Holland, we all have the steel cups, and he hits it hard. He falls down, you see his head, boom, on the cup, and I think maybe that sealed the deal right there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
We'll find that.
Yeah.
Find that.
Hunt
young
versus
gentleman.
What a
Manhoef.
story, Mark Hunt. Well, now you probably heard what's he doing with the law. But again, another
Well, let's
guy.
explain that.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Because he's got a
'Cause he's
lawsuit
in the
against the
new-
UFC because the UFC, he's saying that they knew. Here's a fight. Oh, hold on. Back
Oh
it
yeah,
up a
go
little.
that. Watch
Right here.
I hope
He
my
charges.
gets
Bam.
him.
Catches
See?
him.
Remember
Maybe.
that.
full on the.
Yeah. I need hit
It's
him a
like he
bunch of
hips
times.
bumps him forward
He
with
hit
the
him
steel
a bunch
cup.
more times on the way down too.
Here you go, dunk.
And Mark
Look at
Hunt
the
charges
speed.
out. Bam.
Yeah, boom.
You see?
Yeah, he did. It looks like
Right into the steel cup, man, and it's like he was sprawling almost. He pushed his hips forward.
Wow.
Yeah, he was. He still is an
Monster.
animal, Manhoef.
the only guy that I ever
Lives and
rolled
dies
with
by the sword.
that wore one of those steel cups was Amir Renovardi. He used to wear one of those steel cups,
Yeah.
and he'd get on top of you and mount you with that fucking steel cup.
He was quite
that's,
the.
that's a goddamn weapon.
yeah.
Press it into the thing.
That's a
into the
horrendous
sternum.
place
He
to
was
be.
the star of your stag.
Huh?
Was
Yeah,
he
he
the-
was.
he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the
we were
star
talking
of your
about-
stag? No,
you
he
know,
was the
that-
star
that's
of it.
still this. People don't understand. In half guard, if I sit in a half guard in somebody's half guard, right, and if I sit in it, I grab him by the head, I can literally bounce his own knee into his face. That's a legal move in MMA, and it's a real easy thing to do. Imagine the knee is right over here. I grab the
ignominious.
head. I just thrust my hips forward. His own knee will bash in his face. And I asked Big Joe McCarthy. He says, "Yeah, that's a legal move."
So
I go, "Man, I haven't seen anybody do that." But
Matt
that's
Lindland knocking himself out, but different way.
So you're pushing his head into his knee?
No, I grab his head by the top,
Right,
you know, so
right.
he cannot push me backwards.
Okay.
And then I drive my hips forward, and his own knee, because his leg is here over me, his
right.
own knee sits here. I jam it into his own face,
Hmm.
and he's going to stop my hip power, which is going to be very hard to do for him in that sort of position.
Have you drilled that?
In my class, I teach
Yeah?
it. Yeah.
Huh. And guys pull that off?
Oh, it's a real easy thing. It's very hard for you to stop me.
That's interesting.
We can
Well,
jump
it's
in the
funny when
background,
people learn
so you
things.
feel I can show it to you.
Isn't that funny when people learn things and you go, oh, well, there's that now.
Right.
You know, like for a long time, guys would go and they would go and throw underhooks on, like from the half guard, and then they would try to like snake up to your body and then work their way in. But then people started darsing people.
Right.
So then that underhook became like a real liability for those long-armed darce guys.
Yep.
And then it just sort of had to change. You know, it had to. People have to evolve.
Adapt.
Yeah.
I always like that. We saw it in the early days with kickboxing, Thai boxing, Robin
Sure.
Deckers, you know, in the clinch, pushing somebody away, boom, high kick.
yeah.
And it went down. And then you see everybody starts doing it, and everybody knows it doesn't work anymore. And then he pushed away with the low kick. And I go, wow, and I teach this a lot in my class too, because if I push you, your balance shifts backwards, so you don't flex your leg. That low kick doesn't need to be hard, trust me, because the muscle is relaxed. It goes straight through. So a little push while you kick is a very good thing to do.
But you look at the expeditious evolution of it. When we go back, I remember doing voiceover for some pancrase fights for Fight Network in Toronto, and you know, back where you got and you watched a sport under what was MMA rules, and well, there's that, but it just didn't exist to them at the time in their the mindset or the drilling, as you say, and it's interesting when you look at now people who that's all they've trained in, guys like Cody Garbrandt, for instance, and all these kids, TJ Dillashaw, where it's I love
The
watching
thing is
the growth.
There's only a certain amount of moves that you can do, right? Like arm bars, everybody
So
knows
many
those,
cords.
and the chokes. It's the way towards those. If you find a different way going to that certain armbar, then you surprise somebody, and that you see that happening a lot. Suddenly there's a triangle choke, the new triangle choke setup. Then everybody starts doing it, and then it's gone again. But it's just about that. The move is there,
But what
the
about
setup
kicks?
is every time
What about
different.
certain kicks, right? Well, karate and taekwondo.
But the same thing there.
But that people thought, oh, that would never work.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everyone's, you know, for a while, the front kick to the face. And
Well, you
I
know,
didn't
you're
do
seeing
Frank.
that with Wonderboy. You
Yes.
know, Wonderboy is a perfect example of what I thought was going to be the next stage of evolution is
Yep.
these sport karate guys. rounds. The guys, like Michael Venom Page.
Yep.
Machida also did
Lyoto
really well with it.
Machida.
Raymond Daniels, who went over to Glory.
Love Daniels.
And what these guys are doing is they're showing that if you have all those other skills, well, then those traditional martial arts techniques become very novel, and people don't know what to do with them. Like with Wonderboy, when he starts stabbing people with that front leg side kick and then throws that front leg round kick, people don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
And he's also got that crazy style of like leaning back and forth like a snake, and popping back in. It's going to be very interesting, the rematch, though, because I think even though it was a draw, and I guess according to the scorecard it would be a draw, when you look at who did more damage, it's clearly Woodley.
Yep.
Woodley did way more damage.
Yep.
In 2 rounds, he had Wonderboy in some serious shit.
Yep.
And also, for whatever inexplicable reason, and he doesn't even know why, I asked him about it after the fight, he didn't take him down after the first round.
Yeah.
I'm like, he was like, if you ask me right now, I have no idea why I didn't. He's like, I got 20 years of wrestling. You would think I would use it.
Yep.
And he had so much success in the first round taking him down. But then again, he almost knocked him out in the 4th round, too. Remember, he stunned him in the 4th round.
Full on. You
Yeah.
saw his eyes move.
Yeah. Yeah, it was it was an interesting fight because Wonderboy did regain some points and regain some ground, but he never really had Woodley in any real trouble. And I think that is always the ultimate point of fighting.
Yep.
Is like who puts the other person in grave danger. And clearly, Woodley put Wonderboy in grave danger. He had him stunned. He had him fucked up. He was beating him up. He cut him. He had him in a guillotine. It looked like his head was going to pop off. He had him in far more danger.
Yeah, the guillotine was something else.
Oh,
I
my
could
God,
not
it was
believe
crazy.
he
It's crazy.
escaped.
I mean,
Yeah,
I just wonder how
training
he
with
holds
Weidman.
his. I wonder
Yeah.
how he holds his hands. Because there's some guys that are there's different ways to hold your
Yep.
hands where you can really like accentuate the bone into the neck and
Yep.
really there's like little minute details in guillotines that you never know.
Right.
Ask the alpha male members. They will give you that answer
those
for
guys
sure.
are wicked ones.
Yep.
And of course Marcelo Garcia,
Garcia.
he's probably got one of the best guillotines I've ever seen in
He's an
straight
animal.
grappling competition.
Yep.
And then Cody McKenzie had that fucking crazy
yeah,
guillotine where he'd
right.
push down the side, and that's what Jon Jones used against
Joe
Chiodo.
had a prayer.
Hey, Overeem during Pride Days, remember he had a
Dude.
slick guillotine.
Oh, yeah.
for-
Tap
that's still
Vitor.
like Vitor Belfort, right?
Yeah.
He's in my class like a while ago. This was in my old gym, and we've been working out. And I'm teaching my class. I said, "Hey, would you like to teach the guillotine to the guys?" Yeah, sure. He said, "Yeah, put me in it first so I can feel how it is." But he went freaking 80%. I go, whoa, 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 whoa. I mean, that was a
So
scary
what was the key
guillotine.
then? Why was
No,
it
because
so
he's
scary?
got these long arms.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they go around, and it's like the prayer guillotine.
Right.
It
He's
gets the
super
cut.
jacked.
Yeah.
It's a blood choke. It becomes a blood
Yeah.
choke
Blood
as well,
choke, right.
instead
Yeah.
of just crushing the windpipe.
Yeah, he's so jacked. He's such a fucking giant dude too with those long ass
Yeah.
arms.
You should see him doing like lifting cars and all that stuff that he did in Holland, and
Yeah.
walking with like 150 kilos, 75 kilos in
Yep.
each thing, and then running with it.
Yeah.
Like a
But
suitcase.
another guy represents redemption in the sport, and you hear now what's going on with Ronda and everything. But even Mark Hunt, like there's MMA. I spent a few years now doing boxing, where one loss ruins your career. It seems for whatever stupid reason. But in MMA, there are so many redemptions. Even Overeem has been up, down, up, down.
There's still a bad narrative in boxing, unfortunately,
Yeah.
that someone who loses a fight doesn't come back and
I
wins.
thought
You wanna be
MMA was going
undefeated.
to help that. I think for a bit it did. I mean, Bernard Hopkins had a Hall of Fame career after losing his first fight, so
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Dan
Yeah.
Gable, we were interviewing him, and he saw these records, and like with Randy Couture record and other records, and he goes like, "These are
Yeah, I
world
remember that.
champions.
These are Hall of
Because
Famers.
But we're talking to a guy who lost once in his
Right.
life, So he goes, "Oh, I didn't know that." He was totally shocked by it.
Yeah,
I said,
well,
many ways
different.
to win, many ways to lose, right?
Yeah, way different world
yeah.
when people are throwing their punches and kicks,
Yeah.
and and catching you with knees when you're trying to take them down.
Cro Cop was the guy who told us in Japan that if you don't lose in MMA, you really haven't fought.
Yeah.
I mean, he was trying to make the point of it's so tough and
If you
and
fight the
different
top
and
guys,
top guys. It's
always.
going to happen, man.
Well, it's also evolving. It's such a radical pace.
Yep.
I mean, you're seeing all these new approaches constantly changing.
So many
constantly
great minds
evolving.
involved.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. I mean, Firas Zahabi, and I mean, well, the list can go on and on. But that's what, to me, that's what I become now, a bit more of a nerd, because you call so many fights and you try to have a life as well. But I'm really now getting back into, okay, let's catch up and see what these different minds are saying. Well, you yourself, sir, even, listening to this, it's just always so cool to hear different perspectives and, okay, what's going to work?
With that too.
What's going to work?
I think that's super important for all of us.
I think that's why BJ is going to do good. Really, I truly believe.
Against
I'm
Rodriguez?
hoping, because he changed camp. I think a talent like BJ in his training in Hawaii, he kind of dictates whatever he wants to do. He's so talented. He schools people around, and that's why when you put people like that under pressure, they get tired because they never experienced that in the ring, because he's so way ahead above of everybody else. So if they want to do extra 3 rounds with him, and he doesn't want to do it, he's going, I'm not going to do it.
I think it's a bad
you can't pull
matchup.
that trick at Greg Winklejohn, and there he's got all these guys gunning for him. It's a legend. I mean, I can only imagine the sparring sessions they have going on. I think it's going to do really well for him. Now, his opponent, Rodriguez, is really good.
Because
because we've
BJ
been in that
Penn,
conflict
Joe,
the whole time.
honestly, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's done everything. We saw against Frankie Edgar. What is it? We talked about on our podcast. The last win was Matt Hughes, 2010. Why do you think he's still fighting?
Well, he probably feels like he didn't do it right. He probably feels like the fights he took with Frankie, where he had that really bizarre stand-up stance.
That was the weirdest thing, the tallest guy I've ever seen.
He decided that he was going to fight that way because it was more efficient and that it didn't use as much energy as like widening his stance. And I think a lot of his career, he was concerned with losing his energy in the ring.
Yep.
A lot of his career, he's worried about gassing out. So then he went with Marv Marinovich, right? So he does these 2 camps with Marv Marinovich. At least 2 camps, correct? He did Sean Shirk, and I think he did Diego Sanchez. I know he did Diego Sanchez because I know also that Steve Maxwell was training Diego Sanchez, got Sanchez in incredible shape, but that was BJ in his prime. And when BJ wasn't tired, when he was in shape, and he was joking around about it, like, when I have a 6-pack, you're fucked.
Oh, man, he took him down. What was it?
He was just a different animal back then, but it was only sustainable for like a few fights. I think, like, with BJ, it was, for whatever reason, it was hard for him to get totally motivated to get into that kind of shape again. And when he described it, it sounded hellacious. Like he couldn't hold his daughter, literally so tired after working out that he couldn't even hold his kid. And they have a very specific training philosophy, too. The Marinoviches, and in a lot of ways, some of the guys that, like Nick Curson, who trains under his philosophy in Speed of Sport in California, they want strength and conditioning to be priority number one. You already know how to fight.
I love that.
Yeah, and the idea is, like, you already know how to fight.
Well,
so since you already know how to fight, you should just work on having the most incredible aerobic threshold.
That goes back to Frank and
plyometrics. Tito Ortiz.
Well, but even Frank with he's going to kill him. Maurice Smith with their partnership at the beginning. That's what Frank was all about. Was the because
cardio,
the cardio was so important.
I had
man.
on the bus back when Tito lost to Frank. I was in the same bus going back to the airport, and Tito jumped next to me and he starts asking me questions about stamina, because I always said it's the most important thing.
Right.
You can never have enough stamina. It's the most important. So he started asking drills and doing all these things, and then he became that crazy psycho cardio monster, and he started beating everybody. So he really took it to heart.
He transferred that to Kendall Grove and a lot of the guys he trained under the Ultimate Fighter. Kendall came out of that show, and that's what he told me. He's like, it's all cardio, man. Everything is about cardio.
But again, cardio also. What about the nerves then, and how much panicking and your emotions drain? Like what I'm saying,
it plays a factor in it, but the actual real cold hard cardio plays a factor too,
right?
And it also plays a factor in your nerves, because if you know that you have a small gas tank and you're starting to get lit up,
And especially when you walk to the ring, did I train hard enough? If you know that you can really go, after workout, I would do 7 6-minute rounds in the Thai pads, full blast. That's like 42 minutes. Wow. But that was after a workout. But I knew that nobody did that. So I was not going to run out of gas, because we had half-hour fights in Japan. But it's the only way to do it. Sure. Constantly go hard. And I had guys coming who couldn't do the warm-up in my class. This is a 20-minute warm-up. It's the Bas Rutten workout with the sprawls. And in the minutes, I fill them up with either push-ups or with the kettlebell swings. So it's 20 minutes straight. People come in who had a fight like in 2 weeks in Japan, and they couldn't do it. They had, I said, don't fight. He said, what do you mean? I said, this is the warm-up. We didn't even start now. And needless to say, they lost because of cardio over there. But he said, but how do you do this? I said, it's just baby steps, dude.
You just get to yourself to the point where you can get through that entire warm-up, full clip, and then
just
train
keep doing
hard.
it.
Yeah, just keep doing it.
Who do you think's best conditioned athlete right now in MMA, or what are names that come to mind?
Velasquez right away, I would think, right, Kane? And,
Yeah, he's a freak.
He's a freak.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of really good guys now. Mighty Mouse is
Johnson.
never
Mighty
tired.
Mouse, right,
He's
yeah.
never tired, but he's also so efficient.
Yeah.
You could also say the same thing about Cody and Dominic.
Yeah,
They
I was
fought
going
a
to say that was an
fucking war.
amazing war for 25
Yeah.
minutes.
And-
No, you're right. There's a lot. Well, it's becoming a bigger and
That's
bigger
what I said
factor.
in the opening.
Yeah.
In the early days, it was only the WC guys because it were the lighter guys, but now everybody.
Well, the
I mean,
heavyweights,
it was
there's,
the
Kane,
frustrated
but-
me the most.
Yeah.
If a guy comes in with no cardio for 3 rounds, like, are you serious? It's like bringing a half a can of paint. If you're a painter, you do the door half. Yeah, that's the only thing I have. It's the same thing. But
you
What's your job?
Well, Diaz too, right? The Diaz boys, Nick and Nate have always. I mean, when you think of the triathlons.
Do you
and
know that
everything,
he swam back from Alcatraz 5 times now? He's done it 5 times now. He corrected me.
Well,
I said on the
excuse me.
podcast
That's
twice.
He could be
incredible,
locked
man.
up
He
one
corrected
time
me
there.
and said
So.
5 times. Like, what in the fuck,
He's coming
man?
back. What's he? Is he coming back soon? Nick?
He'll
What's he
come
gonna
back.
do?
Someone
come
gives him a
back.
world title fight
Yep.
or a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Look, I thought, like, do you know how crazy it would be if Connor fought Nick next?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I mean-
yeah.
Oh, now you say something.
You know?
That's big, brother.
I like that.
You know, but they're already saying that Connor, he shouldn't have fought Nate because Nate was too big for him. But Nate is a 155er, man.
Yeah.
That's a fight that's going to happen again if Connor stays the 155-pound champ.
Do you
It's
remember,
going to happen again.
Oh,
It has to.
Yeah,
It's the money
100%
fight.
agree. Do you remember Diaz and Daly?
Fuck
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
But what a
Amazing.
first.
Yeah, we're talking about it on the way over.
Yeah, sitting there. I mean,
Yeah.
just calling him like twice. He was knocked down twice.
Yeah.
Came back and stopped him with 3 seconds left. I
Well,
mean,
his recovery's always
Oh,
been fantastic.
man.
That's stamina.
Yeah. It's,
what about
his
the Gogo
cardio.
Plata and Gomi and then the frickin' THC? Why did they test for that? Well, we don't want to get into that now, I'm sure.
Why
but,
does the Nevada State Athletic
no,
Commission
but why
test
is
for
life
THC?
test for everybody?
It used to be
Say,
illegal.
Come on, medicinal, my friend.
You okay? they're saying now that they're thinking about calming down on that and then not even caring if people test positive.
Well,
which
I hope
is
not. I hope so.
Which would be a good thing because the way the levels show in your skin and the way it stays in your fat, like if you got high the night before a fight, you're not going to feel it during the fight. You're just not. But
If it's an
it
edible,
will
maybe,
show
but you
up,
just
maybe,
won't.
Yeah, but you'd have to really
will
get
show-
fucked up and over. You'll probably get
You
no
got to be
sleep.
Joey Diaz
Yeah.
on his podcast. I have not ever seen anybody. One of those gummy bears was like 1,200 milligrams. I think he ate 8.
Wow.
That's so insane.
It's like that writer from the New York newspaper went to Denver and did a piece, and she ate a whole chocolate bar. I guess it was like 8 different doses or how many different doses, and wrote about her
Good for her.
paranoia.
Yeah, you should be paranoid.
Yeah.
You're a little flesh bag on a planet.
I had my dog one time.
Clinging to a planet. It's hurling through infinity. You should be nervous as fuck. Everywhere you go, a rock could fly out of the sky and kill you.
I made some cookies. This is 10 years back, and I crack one because they're heavy cookies. And while I'm eating, a little crumble falls on the ground, and I see the dog right away running over, and I want to stop it, and I go, nah, let the dog relax. But the little tiny bit, right? So I'm eating it, and I have to pick up something from a friend of mine who was like 20 minutes away here somewhere in the valley. I go pick it up. I'm back in the car, and as soon as I'm in the car, I start driving, and it hits me, so I'm getting hit. And within 2 minutes, I get a phone call from my wife. What did you do to the dog?
I
And
remember.
my dog stands outside, staring outside for like 2.5 hours.
Wow.
No movement, just looking outside. It was the funniest thing. I came home, she was just like
Poor
catatonic.
Luna's been high a few times.
With you too. Luna doesn't like men, but she made a connection with Mauro.
Yeah, it's a rather intimate one.
She doesn't like men?
For some reason, she'll go after you.
Wow.
Kids and women are cool, but a guy, the mailman, literally, this is the dog that will go in full mode attack. And it's a little dog, it's 15 pounds, so it's not.
What kind of
nothing
dog is it?
Scary. It's like a Bichon poodle.
What a cutie.
I'm like, yeah, I love that dog.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
Bas, how's your arm? It looks like you're getting a lot of muscle back in your arm.
You know, at the top, I'm getting it back, but you see below, there's still something to be done. I'm here with in the valley. There's a doctor now. He does these crazy injections also. And it's caught. The nerve is caught somewhere. So, and I feel that it's underneath my armpit.
Caught, like
yeah. So
impinged.
Yeah. So what they say is, if you take a water hose, if you squeeze it, less water comes out. That's the same with the nerve. Less action comes out. And that apparently they made this special picture that they only could do in Santa Monica, and they saw that it was blocked there. And he can inject me there, and that will take the pressure off. And he believes that that's very possible it will come back then. So
wow, interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy because you see, snapping my fingers is still very hard. I can't but I couldn't do that for 4 years.
Wow.
Not even snapping my fingers. So slowly but surely, it works. I just work out the arm and the shoulder. Shoulder comes back also a little bit.
That's the thing that they say about nerves, right? That any kind of nerve damage takes a tremendous amount of time to heal because nerves, they grow back very, very slowly.
Very slow. You know, it's and people, they don't understand. I always say it's like taking the spark plug out of a cylinder. That's your nerve. Once the nerve is broke, you take that out. It's gone, and then the atrophy comes, you know, because people go like, how can you then be paralyzed? I say, what happens with people who break their back, right?
Yeah.
I say, no more nerves going to the legs. You can't walk anymore. That's the same thing what I have right now, only the nerve is still there. It's just pressured.
I ran into some kid after a show the other day, and we were talking about neck injuries and jiu-jitsu, and he was asking me a question. He's like, my arm doesn't work under here. My triceps starting to fade away. And I'm like, dude, go to a doctor yesterday. You got to get an MRI. As soon as you start seeing atrophy and as soon as you start feeling numbness, you got to get on it right away.
Yep.
Any impingement to your neck, because there are some ways that they can sort of relieve the pressure and spinal decompression and a bunch of different platelet-rich plasma type injections like Regenikine and stuff. But you got to do something. You got to do something quick, and you can't keep rolling. All these guys, they want to keep going to jiu-jitsu. Even when their back's fucked up like that, and then like as you're rolling, you feel like you feel like that twinge and
shooting pain. Not a good thing.
Doing real damage to yourself. You got to be super careful with any kind of nerve injuries.
I waited too long. That was the thing with me. I waited too long. I realized I saw my arm slinking, and then I go, I got to go to the doctor. But I was already. I should have gone faster.
Yeah.
As soon as I realized,
is it the pride? Why didn't you go sooner?
I don't know. I thought it's going to fix itself.
Okay.
I've been this indestructible guy for my whole life. I could do anything.
Like,
I fell from windows and from roofs and never had a thing, you know. I mean, I feel from a roof. I fell on my face on the stairs, and all my teeth stayed in. It's the craziest thing. You can still tell by my front teeth I have something, but I mean, how did my teeth not come out? I mean, that was quite a fall.
You fell on your face from a roof?
You know what happened? No, so I'm you know those, how you call those ladders? You know the V-pointed ones?
A-frame.
Yes.
Right? So I'm very smart, of course. It stands like this, and I'm standing it up, and I'm pushing something. And of course, when I push, the ladder stands like this. I push myself away, and I'm falling all the way down.
No!
And I see in slow motion coming because one of those stance things. I go like, I'm going to fall on it. I realize I'm going to fall. This guy's slow motion, so I stick my arms out. I think I'm good, but it was longer than my arms were.
Oh, Jesus
So I
Christ.
slammed my face straight on that thing.
Wow.
And I wasn't even dazed. I go like, and very gentle. I went to my mouth. I go, please be in it, you know? And all my teeth were in it.
No tooth fairy for you.
Insane.
It's insane, right?
That would have killed 80% of the population. You walk away with no loose teeth. That's fucking hilarious, man. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, in all the times when you guys are working in Pride, did you see like when they were doing we were giving guys big bags of cash? Were you guys there for?
Oh,
for
yeah,
all
we
that
got-
stuff?
I got those.
We got
they
no
paid
big
you,
bags
they paid
because
you.
for as a commentator,
The upper
but you
was
get
a
the
little
crisp,
lighter.
you know?
Little lighter. Well,
But
the
like
first, tell them about the first time what you were.
When you went to the bank.
Yeah.
He went
the first time I got paid. The first night, Bushido, you had to come and tell me, hey, this is how it's going to go,
This
bro.
is how it's going to go because they're always just like when you go to the bank, rob a bank, right? They're perfectly packed, you know, crisp notes. I mean,
Right.
it looks like a monopoly money.
Yo, really did.
Almost,
It was
because
crisp $100 American bills. I was living in Canada
He
at the
was
time.
afraid to-
I had to actually, I crumpled it up because when I brought brand new bills, I mean, obviously they could tell it wasn't counterfeit, but they'd always look and go, what is this? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's literally every show, brand new $100 American
You know, there was
bills.
always that in the back of your head, you go like,
I remember
if I
Phil
walk into
Baroni
this
the one
room with a
time.
few guns,
People,
because they were paying all the fighters. They were all
Yeah,
the
'cause
fighters
you
at
only
that
got
night. They
hold
would
on,
walk
We
in.
can't
Sorry,
talk
sorry,
over each
sorry,
other. It's
sorry,
okay.
sorry.
It's lit.
Yeah, sorry.
So go ahead. What?
every fighter, from like they say, okay, from 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, you can come and pick up your fight. There was only one room, and every single fighter would go there. Even guys like Mirko Cro Cop, who I know made like $2 million or something. They made a lot of money at the time, and they
So
would
it's
go
in
in there.
cash? They gave him $2 million
I
in
guess, yeah,
cash?
they gave everybody cash, so I assume
remember.
they gave him cash as well. And I always thought, man, but then again, if the Yakuza's involved, you maybe don't want to do that, right?
Yeah, you definitely
You're
don't
only
want
allowed to
the
bring
Yakuza.
10 grand in. Remember, they were telling family members, here's your stacks, here's
Oh,
your
yeah,
stacks.
Mark Kerr. I mean, everybody on our team had to hold 10,000, he 10,000, because you can't bring more than 10,000. He took one bill off, so it was less than $10,000.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
We all had the rolls in Roppongi.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, that was wild. But it looked nice. It looked cool. When you came back, you felt good.
Felt like
you
a man. Felt like I did
like
something.
a criminal without
Yeah, of course,
being a
without
criminal.
the big
If
roll.
Mirko actually got $2 million in cash from the heavyweight Grand Prix and then put that in a suitcase and went back to Croatia, that's one of the most gangster fucking things I've ever heard in my life. You know?
We should ask him.
I mean, that's
we
like a
should
movie.
get him on the show.
That's a scene in a movie.
Was a
Yeah.
movie.
You beat the fuck out of everybody.
A little tiny
and
case.
You win that sperm tournament. Remember those sperm posters?
Oh yeah, the really weird poster.
The fucking poster was awesome. It's one of the posters I feel bad I got rid of. I had that poster
Oh,
back then.
T-shirts.
Yeah.
Pride or pluck. Remember that? Pride or pluck.
What does that mean?
Nobody knew. And
This is
there's
just
What about the-
Japanese
the
saying?
one line said, "There's no such thing as doing as there's no such
about the
thing as
breastfeeding
doing
one?
things as usual." There's no such thing as doing things such as usual. Hold bought that. He said, I got to get the T-shirt. That is the dumbest T-shirt I've ever seen. Nobody's going to get it.
Remember the Grand Prix poster with the woman breastfeeding the baby? They were like, what the heck is going on here?
I have
Mark
a-
Artistic.
I have a Waleed Ismail T-shirt from like 1998, and it says, "Don't be coward, don't run off the fight." That's what it says on it.
I know at the time was a Brazilian guy. He said he had T-shirts made, and he showed me, and it was a direct translation from Brazil. Board for fight.
Born for fight.
He had 400. I go, good luck with that, buddy.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's
Born for
hilarious.
fight.
Yeah.
Born for
So
fight.
some brutal miscalculations and translations.
Waleed was he was hilarious. I remember he was telling a story, and then I realized what I did, because this is kind of, I thought it was funny. After my Randleman fight, my face was bashed in, right? So I blew my nose, of course, once I was in the dressing room, because then I could do it. I couldn't do it before. So needless to say, my eyes blew up, and they were closed. I couldn't almost see anything anymore. We all wanted to go out, and they go, and Waleed's there, and he goes, man, what are you going to do? I said, give me 1 second. I had a doctor with me. I said, give me the syringe with the whitest gouge, so I stab it in my eye, and I start sucking the blood out of both eyes.
Oh, Jesus,
And I put,
Bas Rutten.
yeah, but that's when I heard Waleed. He told that story, and he goes, and then this guy stabs him in the eye, himself in the eye, starts sucking it out. He puts some shades on like the freaking Terminator, and he says, come on, let's go party. I always become German when they do my accent. Come on, let's go party. And I go, and when I heard that, I go, yeah. Now you see it. When you go back in time, you go, yeah, that was maybe a weird thing to do.
Badass.
Right?
So you stuck them in your eyelids? Like, where did
No,
you stick the needles?
underneath the bags,
the bags.
Where, and I tried to find. You pull. There's nothing coming out. You step a little further, and suddenly you get blood. When you do blood, you start pulling, And then I did the other eye, and I could see again.
Jesus fucking Christ.
He is the Terminator.
That is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is
You
that.
are.
How many people have done that? That's a super rare move. Just stick a fucking needle into the bag under your eye and suck blood out of it. I'd say you're in a very rare company.
Try to stitch yourself up with normal needles. I did that as well. I put a
Yeah?
video out there a long time ago. My wife in the beginning said, "Don't put a
Oh, I
video."
remember that. You were with your daughters.
Yeah,
and you were
with my
stitching
daughters.
yourself up.
My
Yeah.
daughter's filming. The other one is playing music on the pan flute. The dog is walking over my leg while I'm stitching myself up.
Super antiseptic.
Oh, you see, this is the start. Oh, you found it fast.
What was that cut from?
That's and people won't believe it. At the time, I drank non-alcoholic beer, and I walk outside and I grab a 6-pack of Beck's non-alcoholic beer. I walk back and the 6-pack breaks. The bottles hit the ground and it shoots against my leg. And I walk inside and I go, man, this hurts, right? This is weird. And then I walk a few steps. I go, man, this is crazy. So I pull my pants down and I saw that cut. The piece of glass was still in it.
Wow.
So I had to pull it out.
And why did you not go to an actual doctor?
Okay, because my wife was in Holland, and the last time I did that, I overtrained in the sun for a promotion for the body action system. And I had to go to the hospital because I was 93 degrees. My body, I couldn't hold anything anymore. Everything started cramping. It was the weirdest thing. So they had to
So this was like when you were filming that commercial for the body
commercial.
action system?
No, I did a workout, a video workout. I did the whole workout at noon in the sun.
Oh, Jesus.
On the top, and I wanted to look good on the camera,
Right.
so I was hitting the thing as hard as I could. And then of course I took all potassium. I tried everything because I knew this was going to happen. But still, I started cramping crazy. So I went to the hospital. They put like 2 bags in me. Then they put another 2 bags in me, and the bags are empty. We've been there for a long time. I have my kids with me because my wife is in Holland. So they're there with me, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning now, and they still don't come back, and it's already like an hour and a half, and I've been asking them, and I get angry. So I say, you know what, let's go, girls. And what you never should do is pull it out yourself. If you do that, you need to put pressure on there. Now I know why that is, because I sprayed the whole room full with blood. So I go, they had the whole lump here on it. So then my daughter said, hold your finger on the other one. And so I pulled it out and say, and now we got to run. So we run out of the hospital and we go back home.
You just escaped the hospital?
Escaped the hospital because I was dehydrated. So then my wife is gone again, and this thing happens. And she already didn't like it that something crazy happened the first time. So I go, you know what? I'm not going to go to the hospital. I'm going to be there again. It's going to become this big story. I'm just going to stitch it myself. So I asked the girls to find a needle. I tried to bend one first, like they do, but it broke. And I go, oh no. And then we found one more left. And they're really not sharp. You got to really push in order to get it in there. And but it worked. It worked out perfect. I cleaned everything. I cleaned the rope with alcohol swipes, all that stuff. You know, and then I started stitching it. And
not much Bas can do.
And my daughter, I go like, I say, oh, just like Rambo, I said, and she goes, who is Rambo, Daddy? Did he do it too? I say, yeah, he did it too. But who is she? Oh, so he's an actor. It was a movie. I go, yeah, it was in the movie. So he did not do it for real. Maybe you should not do it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people who stitch themselves up either. If you get like a first aid kit with needles and they'll have a needle. Yeah.
Because if you have one of those needles, the little round ones, the hooks, it's an easy thing. You go, whoop, it goes in really fast. But you slip off because it's, every day, the hardest thing is to go in. So what you need to do is when you have the cut, like for instance, if the one side, here's the cut and here, right? You have to put your finger underneath. So make your finger underneath, and then you have to stab the needle there, because otherwise, every time what happens is it slips off. It doesn't go in. So I had to put my finger underneath. Going out was easier. So once you're from the inside going out, that was easier to do. But the going in part, that was hard because it kept slipping and it was not a really sharp needle.
Wow.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, but it's better going to the hospital for 4 hours, right?
Yeah, have you ever crazy glued something? Crazy glued a cut?
Oh, all my students, a lot of times. I gotta go to the doctor. No, you don't. Come here.
Crazy glue really works.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah. As long as your finger doesn't get stuck on the wound as you're applying it.
Oh, who said that? Somebody did that for fun with their friends with his mouth.
Oh, that's
great.
His mouth. What a good friend.
Oh,
Fucking
wow.
idiot.
Jesus.
You can get your lips ripped apart and scar tissue all over your lips.
You know what? You heard the dumbest thing that I've ever seen? There was a guy in Holland. They challenged him to put a pool ball into his mouth.
Oh, fuck.
Lord. So once it was in, he did
get
it in.
Out.
They had to break his teeth out in order to get him out. Yeah. He was like... He almost couldn't breathe because the freaking ball was in his mouth.
Oh my God!
That's taking Pulp Fiction to the next level, right?
Jesus Christ! Jesus fucking Christ! They had to break his teeth.
Had to break his teeth out in order to get it out.
Oh my God! What a fucking retard!
Yeah.
That's just such a stupid move, right? Oh my God!
Yeah.
Can you do it? Yeah. What are you, fucking 3?
Yeah.
You're not a 3-year-old. Don't put that ball in your mouth.
It's probably with alcohol. Oh, you can't do it. Oh no, you watch me. Of course,
that is a problem. Yeah.
Wow.
Goddamn alcohol. So, what is going on with Inside MMA?
It just stopped like
they
2
just
weeks
stopped, huh?
Before they.
How long did you guys do it for?
9 years.
You did 9 years. I did, I think, 9 shows.
Yeah.
If I made that quota.
9 years, and then they just decided. I mean, it was one of the most respected independent MMA shows on TV.
I loved it. You know, it was really good. I would have loved to have a little bit more heads up. But you know, well, hey, when there's a problem,
Time slot sucked.
That was the thing. At the end, you know, to go 9:30 Pacific time. That's a bad
Friday
time,
night.
You know?
Woo!
That's the
Yeah.
East Coast. She shut everything down. It was the most DVR'd show they said. Which
Yeah, well, I'm sure, but people like to watch things when they're current too. You know,
That's
they'd
the
like to
thing.
have it at like 6 p.m. on a weeknight. Yeah,
that's what we've been saying
or
all
7
all along.
Yeah, weeknights are where you want to be. You know, to be on a Friday night, like, oof,
Everybody's
most people
gone.
Yeah, they go out. Yeah, it was a good show though, man.
It was a fun show. We had a good run, you know, and we're back together. The band
Oh
is
yeah,
back
we're doing
together.
our audio version of Inside MMA, I guess. Although we talk other combat sports as well. Mondays we drop the Combat Sports Carousel, Bazito.
That's what it is. The
Yeah,
Combat
every
Sports
Monday. Yeah,
Carousel?
and then we do Rutten and Ranallo, which is more us just riffing on pop culture events and try to add some positivity. We try to find some good news stories to share in this deeply divided world of ours. So yeah, we just we enjoy working with each other, and it's been a blessing to be reunited with the man here.
You're a busy dude, man.
Yeah.
Are you still doing boxing commentary as
Yeah,
well?
I'm
so
actually
you're doing
leaving.
WWE,
Yep,
boxing,
yep.
and 2 podcasts.
And the
Glory?
podcasts, and well, maybe not so much any longer, although Glory will always remain very near and dear to me, but timing, and they were upset that I didn't go to Germany because I had a boxing event that night, and Showtime is first priority, so we'll see, but yeah, I'm doing a championship doubleheader on Saturday at Barclays on Showtime, where unification fight, which I think this year in boxing, because not a great year last year for the Sweet Science, and we're going to try to hopefully see more of the best fighting the best finally, and I think, again, you know, people can say what they want about MMA matchmaking and everything else, but the one thing I've always liked about MMA, eventually you will see the best fight the best, and in boxing the politics and the money kept that from happening.
Well, that was always the thing that kept Fedor out of the UFC. You know, they
You
wanted
bet.
his
Co-promotion.
organization. Yeah, they wanted co-promotion.
Well,
they
we
wanted
see
a pile
how
of
it
money.
helped Strike. I mean, I think everyone knows this by now. That was the deal that broke the proverbial camel's back with Strikeforce and Showtime. Was the Fedor, after he lost, they, you know, wanted to re-sign Fedor at that amount of money. Showtime boss at the time, Ken Hirschman, said, you know, we need Fedor or we're not going to renew the deal. And Strikeforce's owners, the Sharks at the time with Coker, they wanted out, so that kind of set the ball in motion, I think, because I thought, and I think it would have still been very healthy for the sport. I thought Strikeforce and the UFC, man, that was the good shows in Strikeforce. As we know, look what the alum have done in the UFC. Amazing organization, man.
Yeah, between Strikeforce and the WEC, I mean, there's been quite a few champions that have come from both those organizations.
And that was a smart move by the UFC to do what they did to make sure
buy
they
both
got
of them.
exactly.
Yeah, it was a very smart move.
Yep.
But there is something to be said for competition, for sure, you know. And I'm really, first of all, I'm glad there's other combat sports that are getting more and more popular, like Bellator kickboxing, like Glory.
Well, your
kickboxing.
support of Glory is very we know, but you help push that needle as well, my man. And I'm glad, because I think for me, Bud, calling all these combat sports that we've called in this society in the 21st century, kickboxing at the highest level, I pick it over everything.
It's one of the most exciting sports in the world, for sure, without a doubt. And one of the things about Glory is that, you know, this is, even though it's an organization that maybe a lot of people have not totally become aware of,
Sure.
there's world-class, world championship level talent. The talent is not like at a low level at all. No. When you got guys like Nikki Holtzkin and, you know, I mean, there's so much good talent.
Yeah.
Insane.
But it's, again, comes, okay, and
Rico
I guess I'll ask you,
Verhoeven.
sir, why do you think it... Everyone says we need American stars, just like with you, you know, everything. Is that why do you think Glory is not making a bigger imprint right now in America?
It's a good question. I wish I had the answer.
There's a lot, because there's a lot of combat sports already. I mean, look at the UFC, with how many shows they got.
Sure.
That's just the UFC, so if you look at all the other ones, people don't have time.
And I understand that, and I think that's also very valiant. But, I mean, to me, nothing drives me more insane than hearing MMA fans boo an incredible ground game or two athletes. Yep. So I'm just saying, hey, if there's that segment, there is this thing called Glory Kickboxing. It's on UFC Fight Pass 2 now. It's just, I'm just a little surprised and disappointed that it hasn't gotten a little more traction, because these guys deserve it, man. And women.
It's weird. It's weird. I think Bas nailed it, though. I
Yep.
think there's
Too
too
much.
much to watch already.
Well, look, we do this for a living, and I don't know you watch everything. I can't keep up anymore when I'm on the road doing WWE,
And
like
he's
even
single.
UFC, and
And
I'm a
he's-
single man. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'll watch. I have to tape everything just to fast forward and like you say, to save time, Joe. It's
Yeah.
it's I don't dedicate 6 hours because I only got 2 or 3, and
Yeah,
I
it's
still want to
hard.
follow and cover and.
Yeah, and then if you want to follow Muay Thai, good luck with all that.
Good luck with all that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's too many
It's
fights.
too much. Yeah, you're right.
Muay
It's-
Thai is the hardest thing to watch in terms of like get it live on
Yep.
television,
Yep.
pay-per-view. I mean, there's some world-class fights that are going on right now, and there's a lot of times there's
Nobody
no way
knows.
to get to
I
them.
saw you at the Muay Thai Premier League. Remember in
Yeah,
Long
yeah, I've
Beach?
been
and
there, yeah,
that's,
sure.
Again, Ernesto Hoos was there. All these Nicky.
Yeah.
Okay, but boom, still owe me money,
Well,
bro.
they do they?
Yeah, of course. It's,
They didn't
so many organizations
went
owe me
under?
money, my man.
Oh, that's too bad.
It is
that
what
was
it is.
That was a good
Yeah,
organization.
it was.
They
It
put
was.
together a good event, rather. They
Yep.
put together a great event. And
But-
I think in Buakaw was there, remember?
Yes, exactly.
I think the world-class Muay Thai and world-class kickboxing are greatly, greatly underappreciated.
I think Fight Pass, I mean, the ESPN deal, I think, has helped a little bit. And, of course, being on Fight Pass, I hope, is also, I mean, when I was doing the shows and keeping track of social media, you know, there is growth. It's not, I don't think, stagnated by any stretch of the imagination. But, again, it's in Europe, it is popular. Very good ratings, right, in the Netherlands. And
Why not an Ultimate Fighter kind of show
we've talked
for
about that.
kickboxing?
I don't think
also-
anybody gives a fuck about those shows
those shows,
anymore.
well, where we, yeah,
That's
look
part
at-
of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, I think people have seen too much reality TV. I think the novelty of it all wore off. I think when Forrest Griffin and and Stephen Bonner went to war in season 1, and
Amazing.
that whole cast with
Yeah.
Kenny Florian, Diego Sanchez,
Lieben.
and it was something special. But then that was also before like the Real Housewives and a million different fucking
But isn't that
shows
Hollywood? Isn't
and-
that TV in general? Like, I remember Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when was on one night, 25, 30 million, then, okay, 2 nights, 3 nights. It's like everything else we do in life. When it's good or when it's successful, let's keep going until they run it into the ground.
Yeah, and it's also there's trends. People just get they're excited about certain trends and then they get bored with certain
Yep.
trends. And I think reality shows in general, I think it's hard for people to get excited about a new one. So if you had a new one that's just about a bunch of kickboxers,
Yeah, no,
there's
even-
almost got to be something more to it.
It would be something for either a Fight Pass or Netflix,
Yeah.
where you can watch it in one time. I think Netflix is the way to go nowadays
Well,
because you
there's
decide when
a
you
lot
want
of
to watch
streaming
the show.
services, right? Not just Netflix.
Yeah.
Although
No, you got Amazon, you got a lot of them.
Yeah,
boy,
there's
here I
a
enjoyed
ton
your
of them.
special on Netflix as well, and but
Thank
that's
you.
with everything, right? Like and that's why to me kickboxing or even MMA, you can go like on your phone right away. Here's okay, I got 3 minutes. Boom, what a fight, great stuff. Okay, I'm done. Like it's digestible in those tiny morsels. But how do you monetize it? How do you build an audience that's consistent? It's
Well, I think
the
it's
$1 million
going to be a
question.
slow build.
Yep.
It's not going to be like the UFC, which kind of exploded from the Ultimate Fighter. And most sports don't explode like that. They take a long time and
Right.
several generations to build up.
Yep.
MMA was so unusual in that the excitement level from watching a high-level fight was irrefutable, to the point where when people would watch fights on TV, they'd be so crazy and so exciting that it was almost like undeniable. You had to watch it. There's just too many people watching.
Can't
And
take your eyes off it.
That's the difference between. I think kickboxing, the gloves are bigger.
Yep.
You know, they break.
Do it with
they don't go
MMA
to the
gloves.
ground. Yeah.
I've been saying
Well,
that for
John
a
Wayne
long time.
Parr's been doing that.
John Wayne Parr,
John
right?
Wayne.
Yeah,
but
he
they
does cage Muay Thai.
get it here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's not a bad idea.
That's a good idea.
But then, you see it in a cage, like, well, why can't he take him down? Well, why can't he choke him?
Always
No,
something.
do it in
Why
a
can't
ring.
he do a flying armbar?
Troglodytes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. We can do a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sport is still in its growing phases.
Mm-hmm.
I think as far as the talent level, you're definitely seeing what's going on in women's MMA. Women's MMA is changing pretty radically.
Yeah.
And quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw that now, right?
And the
With
ratings, the
Amanda Nunes.
numbers are. I mean, look at Watterson and Paige Van Zandt for a variety of reasons. Again, it's weird how our society we're fixated. The good-looking people who can fight are getting these huge numbers. Where it shouldn't just be in this sport. Okay, you're a fighter, you're a talented fighter, and I know for some, but it just seems like America, especially, is about the cosmetics, right?
Well, sort of, but I don't know if that's totally fair.
Totally
because
true.
I think what we have is this giant pool of hardcore fans, right?
Yep.
Who want to watch Tyron Woodley versus Wonderboy too. They want, people want to watch just really good fights. Right?
Exactly.
There's that, but in order to make the really big money, you got to go outside of those folks and get that casual fan, and also generate interest in 100% of the hardcore fans. Because there's some hardcore fans that, quite honestly, will look at a fight and go, I don't really give a fuck about that fight. It's just for whatever reason, that fight's not my fight. I don't want to watch it. And so if that's a big pay-per-view night for the UFC, there's a certain percentage of even the hardcore fans that'll say, you know what, I feel better saving my $60, and then I'll find out an hour later who won anyway.
And unfortunately, most of the time, before McGregor came, it's always the lighter weight classes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
Because
those guys deserve it.
Is the roster too big, you think, for the UFC in that respect? Like, because even as, like we say, we cover this, we hardcore, like there's a lot of fighters. I'm like, whoa, why, okay, the guy got to fill out the cards. I'm just wondering, for a guy who covers it, does it, works for the company, do you think the roster is too big, or you're happy with the way it is now in terms of fights?
I don't make fights.
Right.
So if I said that, I would really have to do research before I say if the roster's too big.
Yeah.
But if they don't fight if in this roster, the question then becomes, where do they fight? Because they have to get fights somewhere. And would it be better for some of these lighter, lighter inexperienced guys like a Mickey Gall, for instance, who just right away now is fighting in the UFC, beat Sage Northcutt, so holy shit, now the kid's a star, right? He beats up CM Punk.
He's great behind the microphone.
He is a star.
Great behind the microphone, good-looking kid,
boom.
smart.
Yep.
So now, but he's also only a couple fights into his career.
Sure.
If you were his manager and you cared about him a lot, and you're saying, look, kid, you're really good, you got real potential, but you need to get some seasoning, and you need to get some seasoning against commensurate talent. You want to fight guys that offer a threat, but that you can beat. And you want to build your way up to a guy like Damian Maia, right? But if you fight Damian Maia today, you're probably going to get fucking smushed.
Right. Yeah, he's going to get
It's not
submitted.
good. And you might get smushed in a way that might destroy your confidence for fucking years.
But then there's UFC, I guess there's feeder leagues, right? Access TV has done a good job. RFA, all these other groups. I'm wondering the UFC if they want to even invest in something like that.
Well, they made a show out of it now, looking for a fight. So I don't think they will do that. But I always thought that they should do an amateur division
or something,
like a UFC amateur division.
Yeah,
because he's got a great point.
Cool.
Because you're right, Mickey Gall, I think, has potential to be a superstar. But if you're he already beat Sage Northcutt.
He already beat Sage Northcutt,
right?
So if he beats Sage Northcutt, who's going to fight next? He's going to maybe Brian Barberina. If he beats him, if he fights and he keeps winning, like he's not too far out of a top 20 ranking, right?
Yeah. Right.
And then all of a sudden you're in the Wolves' den.
Yep.
I mean, maybe he's cool with that. Maybe look, Jon Jones did it.
Yep.
But how many fucking people are Jon Jones?
Yeah.
No, you're right.
When you get that kind of talent, like Jon Jones is a real special talent.
That's really it's undeniable. That's what I always say. It's a scary.
You see that takedown that he hit on Dan Henderson, that pure grappling match?
Oh, and everybody on Cormier. I mean, it's yeah, he can do anything. That's what I like. He can submit you. He can knock you out. It's just he really thinks about his fighting.
Coordinated for a guy that size.
And under pressure, he's a fucking gem. Under pressure, he just rises to occasion.
Belfort, Toronto, right? Was that what he was?
Dude, his arm was
big,
hyper extended.
Yep.
Vitor caught him in a beautiful armbar, perfect armbar from the guard. Had it fully locked out. It looked like it was over.
It was over,
but didn't panic.
And Jon just wouldn't tap. Let his elbow get fucked up, and then went on to submit Vitor.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Well, once you're a fighter and you slap on something and you think you got it and you put all your effort in and then you lose it, it does a little bit to some fighters to their mental state, right? They get depressed, and then when you turn it up, that's the moment you want to start turning it up, because then you destroy the fighter and then you can actually go for a submission. So I think that's what happened there.
That was a unique fight too, in that Jon Jones dropped Vitor with a front leg side kick to the body. I was like, that is a great technique for him, because he's so long.
Yeah.
When you're seeing the way Wonderboy uses it and some other folks use it, and Sage Northcutt has a really good one as well.
Yeah.
But you think those oblique kicks, I have a feeling somebody's going to get hurt and they're going to take him out. You don't
From
think
the
so?
knees?
Yeah, because it looks so dangerous, and especially a guy like Jones again, because he's got so much power on top of it. If by any chance the guy just walks backwards and his leg is stretched and he gets hit at that moment,
did Silva use him on
leg.
Maia? When with Silva? Because there was a fight. I thought it would involve Silva where I thought the same thing. Like, this is going to end in a serious knee injury.
He would do front leg side kicks to the knees.
Yeah.
He would just hit you. I mean,
right,
not
that's
the
right,
knee.
not the knee. Yeah,
he would hit you right above the knee, and it just hyperextends your knee.
Yep.
It's a weird thing because it's very effective. Like,
It is.
So how come you're allowed to round kick the outside of the knee, which everybody does?
Yep.
Why are you allowed to do that, but
Yeah,
you're not allowed to
exactly.
hyperextend? I mean, if you're not there when it happens, you don't get hit.
Are you a fan?
You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's like it is a very effective technique. Holly Holm uses it quite a bit. You know, she used it on Ronda quite a bit in that fight.
The low kick, I call it. You know, the low kick on the calf. And who was it who broke his fibula? What fight was that? Pretty recent, like 3 months ago or something. Somebody broke his fibula because he got kicked in the calf, and they stopped the fight. Now I'm thinking of it. He couldn't walk anymore. It wasn't the UFC. So,
Other organization, huh? Yeah, I mean, it definitely happens.
What
There's,
about knees to the head of a grounded opponent, Joe? Are you a fan?
Well,
Or do you think it should be allowed?
this is what I think. I mean, I think that if someone is shooting for a takedown, here's a question. So, like, say if a guy is in the process of a double leg and someone's knee touches the ground. The guy shooting for that double leg, the knee touches the ground, and as his knee touches the ground, the opponent is already launching into a counter knee, which is the perfect technique for that position, right? What happens there?
Should be allowed.
yeah.
Is that legal?
It should be.
It should
If
be.
someone
I don't-
shoots a total power double on you,
Yep.
and as they're sliding in, their knee is hitting the ground, and you catch them with a knee and put them out. Is that a knee to a grounded opponent? I mean, how does that work?
Well, he slipped in. I would say that's the same as I hit you, but you turn your head at the moment I hit you and I hit the back of
Right.
your head.
Right.
It
And
should
they have
be illegal.
altered it, though,
should
right?
be
The guys
legal.
who are gaming the system, remember when the guys, they've just put the hand, they have
They've
changed that,
altered
right?
that.
Yeah, that was a
But-
stupid rule.
But it's also like there was a controversial fight really recently with Oliveras and Tim Means.
Yeah.
And Tim Means and Mark Ratner. I asked him when it was a fight. I was like, he's
yeah,
on
I
one
remember
point.
this.
He's only on 1 point. That 1 point being one knee. Like his foot wasn't even on the ground. Like and his other foot was up. So I'm like, is that legal?
Yeah.
Like it was real
It's just
confusing to me.
confusing, right.
And then Mark Ratner said it should be legal. And I'm
Yep.
like, okay, well, it's 1 point. Is it legal? And then John McCarthy said, no.
no.
He said it's not a point. He said like that expression that everybody uses, 3 points, more than 3 points, like 2 hands or 2 feet rather and a hand. It's illegal to hit the
Right.
person when they're down. But he says it's the bottom of your feet. Anytime it's not the bottom of your feet, you're a grounded opponent. So even if you have one knee on the ground and no feet, like you're just
Yeah.
balanced on a
Yeah.
knee moving towards, you're still a grounded opponent.
Wow.
Which
Wow.
is
Yeah.
which is a weird, right? That's weird.
Yep.
I'm not sure if I agree with that.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
And knees to the opponent on the ground.
Skyscraper knees.
I think it's better than elbows. And nowadays, lately, we see some knockouts with elbows, but there's a lot of cuts, and,
Yeah.
and, you know, and you don't have to with the knee. A knee will knock you out.
Yeah.
So that's why I said it's easy. It's an easy defense. Once you know it's going to be coming there, it's a bigger thing. You can just hold the thigh. I mean, but it's. I prefer it over elbows.
well,
Do you remember when Coleman used it in Pride?
Yeah.
Oh.
And even
from
Randleman.
the north-south position?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Randleman as
Randleman.
well.
Well, yeah. No, those two just, I mean, from sky high, it
Yeah.
just right to the
I mean, it's a wrestler's
concussions.
one of the wrestlers' best moves.
You're right.
Because a wrestler, if you're trying to shoot on them and they sprawl and they're on top, they have those knees right there.
That's
just
it.
boom,
Yep.
boom. It's a tremendous technique.
Yeah.
For wrestlers, headbutts. Remember Coleman? That was him all the way in the beginning.
Yeah.
Holding the arms and then just headbutting him.
He did it to Maurice.
Yeah.
The Maurice
Yeah.
Smith, Mark Coleman fight was when headbutts were allowed.
Yeah.
People forget.
Yeah.
Headbutts
That
was huge.
They are nuts.
But is it so nuts? Why can't you headbutt? Like, how come you can use your elbow but you can't headbutt? Why can't you headbutt?
The art of 9 limbs. What is 7 limbs?
The art of
9 limbs.
Nine, right.
I mean, if you can cut someone with elbows, right?
Yep.
You're slashing across their face with elbows. Why can't you headbutt?
Is it a concussion thing?
I don't know, but it's up to you.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it seems like if we're talking about the art of actual fighting,
Sure.
we know that a headbutt is a real martial arts technique.
Yep.
You know, I know why that is. And it was one of the reasons I would headbutt somebody if there was a lot of onions when I was fighting at the club. If I had to fight, I almost never fought there, because I just talked my way out of it. You know, I would tell the people, hey, there's nothing going on. But if I did, I used it on purpose, headbutts, because they look really insane. And I would make sure that all the people who were watching, that they would understand that, you know, we can accept that kind of behavior there. And a headbutt, that will freak people out, you know. And I truly believe it's for for the sport to make the sport more attractive, take the
More
headbutts out.
human.
Once a normal person watches a fight like Mark Coleman start headbutting somebody into oblivion, they're going to go, is this a sport? Right? I mean, it looks really bad.
It looks terrible.
Yeah.
But so does soccer kicks.
I was going to say, so does so
Soccer
does ground
kicks
and
look
pound for
terrible.
that matter,
Yeah.
right?
Well, a lot of boxing people had a
Yeah.
real hard
Oh.
time with people being on the ground and then
Whoa,
getting hammer
big.
fisted in the head.
Big problem.
Roger
You're right.
Huerta, remember, at the one championship?
yeah.
That
That
was
was
scary.
horrible.
I mean,
That
I don't
was
know why the referee
horrible.
didn't stop that.
Well,
Yeah.
Why he let him kick.
Yeah.
I mean, it was obvious. He was in
out.
La La Land.
He was in La La Land and he got hit with a horrible soccer kick and his whole body went flying. And he was just dead out cold.
Could have killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Rogers a guy that should have been a superstar.
Oh, man.
Cover of Sports
Sports
Illustrated.
But there is the
magazine.
curse. You see?
Oh, yeah, the SI curse.
Sports Illustrated curse. He fell right into it.
Who
He's on
else
the
got
cover.
that curse?
Somebody,
Ronda?
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
there's
and
athletes.
yeah,
I
usually
don't
there
know
was the
martial
whole
artists,
thing of
but athletes,
the
a
Madden
whole-
curse too, or
Oh, look it up.
yeah, people
Oh,
who
that's
are
right.
on
Yeah,
covers and they
Sports
all of a sudden
Illustrated curse.
lose the next time they
Well, that's
fight.
also what they said about the UFC game cover,
right.
right?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, whoever gets on it.
And
yeah.
Madden, that's
And
exactly
it is, it is weird, right?
crazy. That's
There
crazy.
we go.
Sports
Yeah, the
Illustrated
cover
cover
jinx.
jinx is an
Yep.
urban legend
Urban
that states that individuals and teams who appear on the cover of Sports Illustrated magazine will subsequently be jinxed. But does it say anything in terms of actual
Yeah,
results?
click it.
Yeah,
Let's see how many
there's
got
lots.
caught.
Look, there's
Oh,
tons.
Jesus
Look
Christ.
at this. Oh, yeah,
There's
it's a
so
long
many.
list.
Oh, my God. The list is insane. Folks, I couldn't even read this list.
No.
This list is fucking insane.
It's
like everybody who gets on
everyone.
that thing
Yeah,
list.
you don't want to be on it. Thanks.
Didn't McGregor go on it?
I believe he did.
I think.
Was that before the fight?
Before the
For
Nick Diaz
Diaz?
fight. Yeah, Conor McGregor, March
Yeah.
5th, 2016. Holy shit.
So there you go.
Wow.
SI Jinx.
He was scheduled to fight Rafael Dos Anjos, and then Dos Anjos fell apart with a broken foot. Dos Anjos is going up to welterweight.
Right.
That's interesting. Very interesting. I'd
He'll
like to
do
see
good
how he feels good without cutting so much weight.
Well,
He's
yeah.
a big fella.
You know,
think that's for
I think
everybody,
everybody,
right?
everybody
We're
when they
saying
fight
that.
one up,
I-
they fight so much better, man.
Why?
It
But,
really is.
but then does everyone do that? I think, yeah, for a lot of reasons, you should fight closer to.
Do you think there's a
That's a way-
solution? Do you think there's a way that they can make guys weigh their natural weight, like test them the same way they test for like drugs,
Yep.
test them for hydration, like show up, hey Mauro, we're gonna just put you on a scale today
Yep.
and find out what you actually weigh.
Yep.
Mauro, you fight 155, you weigh 186. What the fuck's going on, dude?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
look, man, get in shape, and tell us when you're ready and what you actually weigh. And so then when you find out that the guy's in shape and you're shape, you're ready, okay? Well, it says here you weigh 175.
There you go.
Okay,
Good
now
for
we're
you.
going to
Yeah.
check your
I
hydration
like that.
levels. Oh, well, you're dehydrated, though.
Okay.
Well, we're going to get you to a normal hydration level. This is argued. Now you're healthy. You're 179. Okay, this is what you weigh. You weigh 180.
Yep.
You're a
Yep.
180-pound fighter.
Yep.
And, just decide whether or not you want to fight. And if you do, this is what you fight at. Or if you want to weigh less, you're
Yep.
going to have to lose some weight.
Yep.
But you're
Oh,
going
I
to have
like
to
that.
prove that you actually weigh that. Lose all the body fat, get yourself to a good position. Okay, so what are you at now? I've got myself down to 170. Weigh them. Okay, looks like you're actually 170. And check your hydration. You're healthy. Okay, so this is your real weight. You fight 170.
Perfect.
I mean, how many guys? We would
It's
have to
gonna
blow
cost
up
a lot of
all the
money.
weight classes.
Yes.
Of course.
It would
And that's
blow
right.
up the whole
The
sport.
amount, and that's unfortunate. But for the
But
for
if
the
once
greater
it was
good,
established,
that's
yeah.
for the greater good.
No, but
I like that.
You
I
tried
support
it. You said it already at the beginning. They blame other people, fighters. And if there's nobody to blame, they blame the fact that their opponent was cutting more weight, so he was stronger in the
Yeah.
fight. That's why I lost. No, you lost because you lost.
Right.
You didn't lose because you weighed 5 pounds extra. Look at the old days, man. Let's forget
Frankie
about
Edgar.
this.
Why did Frankie Edgar
Oh,
beat
yeah.
everybody when he
Beat
was
everybody.
155? He didn't cut a goddamn ounce.
No,
Yeah.
one.
And he was
You see?
beating everybody.
But
Yeah.
that's the problem, and they start focusing on it, and at least because they can give it a reason, and then let's hope that the
And
next weight class
we've
is
already
going to do
lost
better.
main events, we've lost shows, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
will lose
That's
lives.
right.
I mean, and even Chris Justino. I mean, what is her weight? What is the
It's
the
gonna
weight
be
class that
145. This is
Cyborg?
the most
But can-
healthiest
she's-
for her.
I don't even think that's
I don't,
true.
Thank you. I don't think so, Boss.
I think she's bigger than that.
Yep, I agree with
Oh,
them.
yeah?
I don't think.
if it's that much of a struggle where she's almost dying
Yeah, that's
outside
true.
the
Yep.
lines to make
Yep.
140.
Yep.
145 is a brutal
I agree
struggle
with you.
too.
155.
I think
is-
155 is a
but
real
who's-
weight class.
That's
that-
true.
There
Yeah.
you go. So
Well,
maybe it's not for her.
But I'm hearing that she's even heavier than 175.
Yeah, that's what
I
I
hear
heard,
she's
too.
way over 180.
She should
That's
fight
what
Gabi.
She walks around on.
Yeah,
Jesus
Gabby
Christ. Gabby's like 240. Gabby's and their friends.
Yeah,
apparently. Yeah. I mean, I wish there were more weight classes for men and for women. You know, I wish there was a ton of weight classes, like in boxing. I think boxing. Yeah, the one thing that boxing has that people don't like is that they have so many champions because they have too many weight classes.
Exactly.
But that's how you make things fair.
You're right.
Yep.
You got like you can't have a 185 and then a 205.
Right.
That jump is huge.
What, 205 to
think of
65?
20 steaks.
20 pounds.
Take 21 ounce or a 16 ounce T-bone steaks and stack them up and imagine someone has that advantage over you.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
that
That's
horsepower.
crazy.
Well, if it's in his belly, it's okay. 235 weight class. We need that.
I think you're right. Or at 225,
Yeah,
right?
225,
maybe a 225,
cruiserweight.
maybe a 245, and then unlimited.
Yep.
You know, who knows? But I think that having heavyweight where there's a weight limit,
Oh,
like you
wow.
can't weigh more than 265, that seems crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're 180 on the day of the fight.
Well, look at
Right.
guys like
Cutting down to
Lesnar,
260.
others.
Yeah,
Lesnar's
the big
cutting a
giant
lot
guys.
of guys.
And then
man.
you're struggling. You can't go to 205, so you're like 220, and you have a really hard cut, and then you face a guy who's 285.
Although the early morning thing, I guess, has been successful, right? The day of the
No, it's been
It's unsuccessful.
radically unsuccessful. There's been 17 different people missing weight since
Oh,
then.
well, yeah. Oh, really?
Versus
Since then?
like
Jeez.
1 or 2 in the same time
So
period.
why? So well, then what's this? Why is that then? Just
Well, the
because they want to get
safety.
the edge, the safety?
Safety, it gives people more time to rehydrate themselves. But the problem is it gives them less time to lose the weight.
Right.
So if you're starting off early in the morning, like if your weigh-ins are at 4 o'clock and you know you're not going to eat all day, you're going to lose weight all throughout the day. But if your weigh-ins are at 8 o'clock in the morning, when are you getting up that you're going to lose all that weight?
Yeah.
You know, you might not lose enough weight. So
Right.
people are
So they're
miscalculating.
miscalculating.
There's definitely there's definitely an issue with people cutting too much weight. There's definitely an issue with people doing it unhealthy.
Shouldn't they be punished then or penalized even more though? Like I just recently heard
Ray
Calvin
Borg lost
Gastelum.
30% of his
Well,
purse.
I know, and that's what. Okay, that's fine. But even Calvin Gastelum, when they admit, yeah, I haven't really been looking after my diet. Right, you're a professional athlete signed to the biggest organization in the world. Shouldn't that be part of the contract? That if you're fighting for us, that you have to maintain. You
Yeah.
almost have those instead of even a random drug test, random weight
Well,
test.
obviously they made Calvin go up to 185 in
Yep.
his next fight,
In
and what's
Bellator.
crazy is he looked fucking
looked
insane
amazing.
against
Oh,
Tim
yeah,
Kennedy.
Tim Kennedy,
he
right.
looked insane.
Wow.
And Tim Kennedy blew his entire wad trying to take him down and beat him up in the earlier the first round. I mean, he showed his size advantage, his strength advantage. He's a massive. He's a massive powerhouse when it comes to his ground and pound
man,
and his
yeah.
jiu-jitsu. But Kelvin just stayed the course,
But
kept
so
good
is-
defense, and then eventually when he got on his feet, man, way too swift on his
But
feet.
how many times has he missed now? 3?
He's
total?
missed a bunch of
But
times.
that,
He missed against Tyron Woodley, and Tyron beat him. And Tyron, as a gentleman, decided not
Yes.
to even take his money.
I remember that.
Which is a very fucking
yeah.
ethical and moral move by the champ, now the current
Yeah.
champ. So he lost that. And, I mean, there was more than one fight in the past before that.
But when do you say, okay, again, I'm
So
not to
good at
begrudge him a
85.
career because he's a great fighter, like you say, he's very good at 185, so let's hope, okay, he stays.
Yeah, but if
he misses weight at 185,
Well,
then
you should say a year you can't
Don't you
fight
let
for
him
a
go?
year. You know, put the fear in them, and then they're really going to do it.
I think Kelvin should fight at 85. I mean, I think he could win. He could win at 70. I think he can make 70, but he doesn't always make 70.
No, you're right,
And I think-
185.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
unless he wants to lose a ton of body fat and then try fighting at 170, really clean his diet up, really go
what
hard
happened
on
to
the
Johnny
cardio.
Hendricks?
Donnie Hendricks does not seem like the same person.
Oh, was
You
it
know?
because of Thompson wrecking him the
Could
way
be
he
a
did,
lot of
or? But I
things.
agree because I heard you say as well, even the
Didn't look physically
he
the
did not
same.
look physically the same.
No, he doesn't look like he works as hard. It doesn't look like he is as motivated. He doesn't look as hungry. His vaunted knockout power is gone.
Gone.
It's
Weird, eh?
weird.
How
It's
that can happen.
weird. It's weird.
Yeah, I wanted him, and I said a long time ago, if I was his coach, I would have tied his left hand to his body, and I put him after every workout. You go 3 or 4 rounds on the back, just using your right hand. Can you imagine if he developed a right hand on top of that?
Yeah.
I mean, because it was 90% was left. You would now you open a whole new door.
And it's unfair to question someone whether or not they tested positive for anything, or whether
right,
they
if
took
they did,
anything if they
yeah.
haven't tested positive. So he never tested positive for anything, so you can't look at it that. I don't think he did he?
No,
Maybe a diuretic or something? Maybe.
maybe.
I have no clue.
Find out if
Yep,
Johnny
yep,
Hendricks ever tested
yep.
positive or something. I
But-
don't think he did. So, there's a lot of people throwing accusations about him, and
right.
George St. Pierre was.
George St. Pierre as well.
But you know what? It could also be like one of the things he said about his last fight is that he worked out four times a week.
Yeah,
He's
not
like
enough.
one time, 4 times a week. He's like he just was not focused on that fight. If that's the case,
Well, you gotta get out.
That's why he looks like that.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with USADA or anything else. He just doesn't have the hunger anymore.
That's it, and that's where you put yourself at great risk.
But also mentally going
That's what
into
I
the
mean.
fight, if you know that another guy trained 10 times a week and you trained 4,
Yeah.
what are you going to do in 4?
It's just weird that his power went away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he used to make guys fly.
Crumble.
He used to. Remember when he hit John Fitch? He
John
went
Fitch.
flying. Martin Kampman flying. They went flying. It's like he had magic in his hands. And then all of a sudden it stopped.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? How did that
Although
never
it has
happen?
to be a
fair,
mental
again,
thing then
Yeah,
against
but
the
again, we
Wonderboy,
talked about too.
maybe
Thompson really just ruined him.
Yeah, he fucked
And
him
just
up.
yeah, and
He
you,
fucked him up, and he fucked him up with like using the front leg side
Yep.
kick and then the front leg round kick. When he hit a bat one to the body, and then Johnny like nods his head like you got me, and then slap the same one right up to the face.
Yeah.
And
That's the thing with Wonderboy. He mixes it up
yeah.
perfectly. And then it's suddenly a hook kick and a question mark kick. And it's every time it's a different kick.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's going to come. It's
Well, when
Mirko Cro Cop.
Ellenberger talks shit about him, like all the spinning kicks, it's a waste of energy. He's like, "Oh, for real? Check this shit out." I mean, you don't think it's a coincidence that he wheel kicked Ellenberger in the head
yeah,
twice?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, here's your waste of time, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a waste. I'm fucking super good at this.
McGregor too, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's working.
And Conor McGregor too, right? He's using a lot more.
yeah.
He's very.
Yeah, but the kicks like him, they're not powerful
No,
kicks.
right.
They're
Well,
more to measure,
but
you know,
could
and
they
to
be?
hold the opponent at bay, and then suddenly his hands.
Well, his
I'm
hands
in
are
love with his hands.
ridiculous. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You know,
his
it's-
left hand
His left
is a
hand is
fucking
a laser.
missile.
Yeah,
He's the
yeah.
guy, man. He's one of my favorite guys to watch. Also, outside of fighting,
Yeah, he's
you
a
know,
character.
I mean,
He
the
gets
way
it.
he talks, he never has the same. Like with me, with interviews, when people ask, you know, about your life, how it started. Well, it's the same story over and over
Yeah.
again. Well, he can make it every time
he's
different. He's one of those
he can
guys
talk.
that constantly changes.
Smart businessman.
Yeah. Oh, the smartest.
Smartest.
He's the best shit talker in the history of combat sports.
Yep.
Yep.
Before that, it was like Chael Sonnen and Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
and now
Yeah.
it's Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
I mean, he just knows how to fucking say it. Like when Jeremy Stevens starts talking, he goes, "Who the fuck is that guy?" And just destroyed him with one sentence.
awesome, man.
I mean, he finds the perfect shit to
Yeah.
say.
And the way he looked back from it.
Yeah. Like, who the fuck? It's hilarious. And I mean, when he
Entertaining.
went in there and annihilated Eddie Alvarez like
Wow.
that, you just got to go, what in the fuck, man?
Yep.
He's in that style of
And that-
sliding out and sliding in. It's a very unusual, almost a karate-based style.
Yep.
You know, with like sitting down on vicious punches on the end of it, you know?
But you know his stance, and because he's a southpaw. But I thought, you know, with Aldo, if I was Aldo's coach a year ago already, I would have said, we're going to train southpaw, and because there's no way he can block those low kicks. If left low kicks come, there's no way he can block them.
Yeah.
Because his stance is too wide and his knees are pointing inside to you know, you can't block him.
100%. It
That
changes
would
the whole
be-
game.
Changes the whole game.
And
Start
if he
left low
fights,
kicks.
and his left low kick, by the way, like Aldo could kick the fuck out of you with either leg.
Oh.
His
Ask,
low kicks are
Mr.
horrific.
Faber, right? Wow, man. Just,
Horrific.
yeah.
Yeah, he
And he
always
looked,
made me think of Roman Deckers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that explosive.
Oh man, his what they call it Dutchie, left to the body and then right leg kick behind
loved
it.
it,
I remember
the
he
liver
landed
shot
that
to
on
the right, yeah.
Chad Mendez. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's fun
The
stuff.
way he throws it, man. I think Aldo and Max Holloway is a very interesting fight. That
love
fight
Max
has
Holloway.
to
Yes, it
happen.
has to happen.
It has to happen.
A
I
lot
keep
of
hearing
them.
all this crazy shit like Aldo might go up and fight Habib for the interim title, and I'm like, God damn it, you got to have
Why is
Max Holloway fight
yeah,
Aldo.
Why don't? Well, there we go again, right? The money weight fights. Everyone already, even
But that would be a
Carbine,
money
I guess,
fight.
talked about.
I think that's a money
but,
fight.
No, but
Yeah,
I'm
it's
saying money
big.
weight instead of staying in their way, instead of defending the title they own. I mean,
Well, it's obviously not as big a fight as him fighting Nurmagomedov in Russia, though.
Right. Oh,
and
huge.
Especially if they fight for a 55-pound title.
yeah.
If Nurmagomedov fights in Russia, they might have to fucking build a new soccer stadium.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
huge.
I don't think people understand. Anytime I post something on Instagram, I get 150 fucking Russian dudes who write Habib time, and then they just put Habib time in the credits.
Nice.
My fucking credits are overrun with people that say, or not credits, comments rather,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
overrun with people who say Habib time, Habib time. Fucking.
Just for safety, when they're building that thing, make an underground tunnel for
Yeah.
when he loses.
Oh, yeah.
that
Jesus
you can
Christ.
escape
God.
because straight to the airport.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if he
yeah.
fights Conor, you know what's interesting about the Conor fight, man? Look, Habib time, Habib time. See?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He's not fucking around.
That's
it's all
awesome.
true. But like, if he fights Conor, when Michael Johnson cracked him and rocked him, I went, oh
yeah.
boy.
And then he got angry.
Yeah, he got angry.
He did get angry and he beat the fuck out of him.
Yep.
But the point is, he got hurt.
He got hurt.
And if Conor catches you like that, you might be fucking Dunsville.
Yep.
He might drop some hammers on you, and that might be the end of
conversely,
you.
the same thing, right? We've seen Conor as well at times.
Oh,
It's just the
well, better in
shot.
Habib's defense,
Yep.
we saw Conor get rocked against Nate, and he wound up losing that fight shortly thereafter. Habib got rocked against
And
Michael Johnson,
came back.
Stronger,
and dominated him. So it was the only time. I mean, it's when you see a guy who's as dominant as Habib, you start looking for weaknesses in his armor. It's the only time we've seen any weakness at all.
Yeah, but McGregor, in his defense, he was getting tired already there.
You're
when
right.
he got hit. So
Desperate,
that
You're right.
combined.
Yep.
So
You're right.
Habib doesn't get tired. Did you see that funny video they had with the narrating guy who's constantly dropping F-bombs left and right? The story about Habib and how he's training and where he comes from.
No.
When he was 6 years old, he was already wrestling with freaking bears. And, they had this. It's really funny. It's on here right now somewhere.
Do you know
on,
what the
Twitter.
name of the?
Just go Habib promo. Just put that on. Let's see what
gotta be
happens.
Is
so
it
many
like the most
promos.
interesting man in the world
No,
type
but,
of
but
spoof?
it's lately made, so it will pop up on top, I guess.
Okay,
It's really funny.
nice.
And you see him wrestling a bear when he was like 6 years old, and then he starts talking about his father, who was already a really
But that's the other
good
thing.
judo guy.
MMA and combat
Sambo.
sports, the memes, the use of social media to
yeah,
really
yeah,
get
yeah.
so cool, man. And
Well,
they-
unless
so
you're
well.
unless you're Ronda Rousey
Well,
after that fucking Nunes fight, like woo.
So
Ouch.
what's gets you coming back?
So many fucking people
Yep.
with those mean memes.
mean.
What do you think? She's coming back?
No, I don't think she is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think. Well, if she does, she should come back in a calculated manner. Like, don't just rush in and fight for the title like she did. I think that's crazy. Taking a year off, getting head kicked, knocked out. Where's your head out? Like, and was she 100% committed to this as far as like training for the entire time off, or did she just get in really good shape over the last few months, and had she been training at all before then? I mean, you'd have to ask her and answer all those questions, but if she doesn't want to be fighting, she shouldn't be fighting.
But Emmett was shouting from the beginning, hand movement. So I assumed they worked on hand movement. I just think the pressure and the way she comes and the angry face and all that shuts her down. And it's too much pressure. A whole Hollywood career rides on it. I mean, that's not going to happen now, right?
Right.
I mean, because
But buddy,
the
there was
Roadhouse
you
is
said
not
it too.
this-
We talked about it. No footwork, no defense,
but that's
no
what
head,
I
but
mean.
there was
I mean,
nothing.
But that's what nerves can do to you. I
Yeah.
like to see a Ronda with a smile on her face go to the ring, being relaxed and calm. Send her away. Go to a Dwayne Ludwig for a year and have some smokers, because you can still legally do that in other clubs. Just striking, to just get in that moment and to see where you're at. I think in training, this is the problem that everybody has. In training, you always do good. A lot of guys do good. But as well as I do, there's these gym guys who are really good in training. They can't do it under pressure. So if she's been boxing and working on her striking, and she's been hitting people left and right, and they got some good people coming in. I heard that she works out even with ex-boxing champions or current
Raquel
boxing champions and
Pennington was
doing
Olympic
well against her.
boxers, yeah.
But then again, that's a nice, safe environment. Bringing
Yes.
it under pressure with all the crap she had on her shoulders. I
But
thought
there's also
that takes it
Amanda
away.
Nunes is a very,
Animal. Yep.
very dangerous puncher.
Saw it in Strikeforce, man, right away. Right away.
Her kicks, her punches, she kicks and punches so fucking hard.
Yep.
And she has long arms, man.
Yep.
And she puts you on the end of these long punches. And she dinged Ronda very early in the
early.
fight. You could tell she was rocked.
She was right
that
away
was it.
back into the home fight. That's
Yep.
what I think happened there. And
Yep.
Nunes also leans all the way over, so it's hard to take her down,
Yep.
And Ronda should also, and maybe she's doing it. I'm just saying what I don't see, maybe start wrestling as well on top. Because a girl like that with so much talent, she'll pick that up so fast. But if she suddenly shoots for a single or a double
Well, she
leg, she
went for
covers
the
more
clinch,
distance.
but she'd already been rocked. So I think that, because remember, she shucked her off quite
but
But
easily.
her clinch is always upper body clinch, and she always reaches in with the left arm.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like this, Greg Jackson and I
Greg-
talked about it after the Holly Holm fight, that they had seen
That
every
they-
single one of her fights.
exactly.
She comes at you, she got that left arm extended, tries to get a hold of girls with the left arm, hip tosses them, gets them on the ground, arm bars them, him, and they just were so prepared.
But
for
isn't
that.
it, I was going to say, interesting that Holm, she
Lifted
came
her up.
from MMA, from boxing to MMA, just trained for a Ronda Rousey fight. Cody Garbrandt, remember,
Well, she was a kickboxing
well,
champion,
kickboxing
too.
and boxing champion. But I'm saying, in terms of her MMA prep, the goal was Ronda Rousey, right? And now with Cody Garbrandt, he talked about in high school Dominic Cruz, and you wonder, well, the laser focus, right? The television, obviously, you have to work on everything. But if that's your target, and you see what he did to Cruz, it's
Well, there's a lot
incredible.
of fighters like that attract greatness. Like I think Anderson Silva attracted greatness, and I think one of the reasons why Weidman became as great as he was he knew that Anderson Silva was at the top of the mountain.
Yep.
Like you see that assassin, and Weidman caught him like right at the right time, and knocked him out, and then the broken leg in the second fight, and I think when you have a dominant champion like Anderson was for so many years. All those young kids coming up, that's who they aspire to, and it raises the bar. Like I'm really curious to see what the flyweights look like in a few years.
Yes.
Because of how good Mighty Mouse is, because his bar, he's raised it so high.
It's way above everybody else.
Yeah.
But Anderson Silva getting too comfortable, planting 2 feet next to each other, having no forward, backward, side, more lateral movement whatsoever. You can only lean as much backwards, right, for that left hook what he received from Weidman.
Well, you know what he fucked
Showmanship.
up? Weidman had a very clever move that a lot of people missed. And what he did was he threw a right hand, and then behind the right hand, he threw a back fist. So there was a punch coming from the left, and then he moved towards it, and another punch coming towards the left because it was a left hook. So Anderson is doing his bobbing and weaving stuff, but when a punch comes at him and then a back fist, he's got to go that way. So then he's got to go that way. So when he went back right, that's when Chris Weidman cracked him with that long left. That's the same punch that he used to knock out Uriah Hall. He throws this long, like straight-armed hook, and it's very deceiving like, how much distance he can cover with it.
A lot of distance. Plus, it's that straight punches are better as well. I always say, that's why I always liked. You use close lines.
Yep.
I mean, you have more reach if you connect with a left hook. You're way too close. If the person doesn't move, you're way too close for a straight punch.
Right.
But if you make it a palm strike, now we have some space that we can cover.
What did you think of Yoel Romero knocking out Weidman? Wasn't that insane?
Why did Weidman even wanted to go for that? I mean, he said the whole training camp. He said, and afterwards he said, I have no clue why I did it because we knew we should not do that. And as soon as he lowered himself, it was. Yeah, it just collided
It was just a perfect knee.
Because he was doing freaking awesome. He did exactly what I said in the game plan. Go. It doesn't matter if you keep him down, take him down. Get all those muscles working.
Yep.
Get him tired. And it was working for him.
Until Yoel decided to wrestle with him. And then he was throwing Weidman around that second round. You're
so
like,
strong.
That's when you realize how strong a wrestler he is. How good his wrestling is. It's
But see,
fucking
another one,
insane.
right? The wrestling of the high level, Olympic caliber, and yet power to go. Those
he's
are
a freak.
dangerous dudes,
That's
man.
why
he's the
where
freak.
he is.
He's the freak of all freaks.
He
Like
really
he
is.
stands next to all of them and just looks like, what in the fuck did they feed you in Cuba?
But the same thing with him. Can you imagine if he starts focusing on the right side a little bit more, what a super freak this guy is going to be?
Yeah.
Because all his attacks are coming. It's a left kick, left knee, left straight. Pretty much. The only time when he uses a right low kick is to set up a straight punch or a kick or whatever. And he doesn't throw with power. You should counter that. That right kick that he throws outside leg or inside leg, whatever stance you are. But you should counter that instantly because otherwise the big hand is going to come. But if he starts developing a right and a right kick, just two things, a right knee, a right hook, whatever,
Is
into the body.
Is he too muscular? And I know it's layman's,
it's working for him.
but that's what I'm saying. But it's like you look at a guy like that because you say physical specimen, man, just so incredibly above and beyond. But yet, okay, it's working for him.
Well,
Anthony
he's
Rumble
undefeated.
Johnson, yep.
So it's definitely
it's
not a problem. He
but-
just has to manage it. Like in a lot of ways, the same way Tyron Woodley uses his power.
Yep.
He's obviously much more muscular, much stronger than most guys in that division. And he showed in the Wonderboy fight that Woodley knows how to manage it now. Like he went a full 5 rounds. And what's really important is that he stunned Wonderboy in the 4th. So they're in the championship rounds. He rocked him and hurt him bad and had him in deep, deep trouble. So I feel like there's so many benefits to being as powerful as Yoel Romero is.
Yeah.
There's definitely a downside. And that downside is if a guy like Weidman didn't shoot for that and was constantly wearing on him, constantly grinding on him, and had him in a bit of trouble like Tim Kennedy had him in the second round, then we'll see
Sure.
what happens.
But it hasn't
if he
happened
gets,
yet.
Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
even in the Kennedy fight, he definitely cheated, right? He definitely sat on a stool too long.
But he recouped fast too.
Yeah.
And he was tired, but he still had knockout power.
But he still recovered,
Wow.
and he
Did he
still
ever?
came back to fuck Kennedy up. And it was
Jesus.
like, Jesus Christ. He's such a monster. He's so much better of an athlete than almost anybody else in the division. When he throws guys around, they could just go sailing.
Yeah.
What about
he grabs a
Jacare?
hold of you.
Speaking of guys who I've always been impressed with, and a guy, obviously
recently
the
started knocking
jiu-jitsu,
people out.
Yeah.
but the striking to me,
And he
becoming
recovered
more and
in
more
that
refined.
fight, too, because
Exactly.
Yoel fucked him up,
Yep,
too. Yoel hit him with that spinning back fist and had him all hurt.
Man,
Yeah.
there's some-
Jacare came back from that fight and won.
Good thoroughbreds, man. A lot of great fights.
And
still
what
to be
happened?
made.
No, Yoel Romero won. He won the decision, but the decision was overturned because of the drugs.
drug testing,
Yeah, he had some sort of peptide
Right.
that they found in the supplement that he was taking, so they only gave him like a 9-month suspension.
It was
because
the same one
tainted
as
supplement.
Jones took, for understand. That's why that was, to me, that was kind of weird because he is
No,
managed by
it's not
the same guy.
one that
No?
Jones took. No, definitely not.
Oh, okay, I thought that.
No. He had like some growth hormone thing inside of it, whereas Jones had clomiphene. Clomiphene is an estrogen suppressor that people use to kickstart their testosterone production after a steroid cycle. It's an estrogen suppressor.
So-
But
Are you
Romero
a
was
pro-
the first one who brought actually the product. And he says, "This is what I took," and he looked into it, and that that's what I always said that. What all the fighters say, but nobody. If I would be the guy, I would say, "This is what I took. Please test this." And he
Why
did
do
that.
they take
So-
it? Are you a proponent? Like a lot of people say, what do supplements actually do for the athlete if this is what's been happening with the tainted
Well,
supplements?
it's just where you get your supplements from. The real issue with supplements is some of them definitely work. I mean, how much should you be allowed to enhance your body with nutritional supplements?
Right.
Because there's a lot of supplements that work. Creatine works. There's a lot of stuff that works. So you have to figure out, like, okay, well, how much can it work? It obviously can't work like androstenedione or all those hormone precursors that they've all banned. Okay, well, it can't work that good. Can it work as good as this? And then, like, there's all these different, standards. I mean, there's certain protocols that people follow when it turns to vitamin replacements, and they do IV vitamin drips and extreme concentration on their nutrition, and they have results. Like, those results, they tend to show that there are benefits in supplementation, and there's definitely benefits in clean diet and making sure that your nutritional balance is. So, like, at what level should it be illegal? You know, I mean, you can't. How the fuck are you getting so much B12 out of nature? You're not. You have to take it in a pill, and then it gives you energy. Well, what the fuck is that? You know, and you could take some caffeine. Like Chael Sonnen used to take caffeine pills to make sure that he got the exact amount of caffeine, because he's like, you don't know, because you get a Starbucks, you might get a venti Starbucks, and they might have fucking packed it in tight and juiced the shit out of it. And every now and then you get a cup of coffee, and you're like, whoa, this is some strong coffee. So you might actually test over. So in order to make sure that Chael was in the lines, he would take pills.
Caffeine is illegal. It's on the list.
It's legal.
Wow. Legal. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
But if you get to a certain number, it's illegal.
Okay.
Like if you get past a certain amount of milligrams in your system, I don't know how they measure that.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like the testosterone to epitestosterone. I've talked to medical professionals and everyone saying, men, you produce supposed to be around 1 to 1. That's all.
Yeah, unless
nature.
you're some weird freak, you might be like 1 to 2.
So why even? Okay, so 4 to 1 or 6 to 1. How does that? That's always puzzled
What about
me as
the
well.
14 to 1?
Well, but that's what I mean. So why?
Yeah.
And for injury recovery, Joe, and I know a lot of people, fighters, that's what they say. Well, geez, I had a mortgage. I have to fight. I got to support the family. Is there a way to monitor that, where even the banned steroid thing, where you can allow a person to at least make a living without making it an enhancement?
Well, it's going to be an enhancement. That's the problem.
That's right away.
Not only is it going to be an enhancement, but if you take steroids while you're, like, say if you have a knee surgery and then you take steroids and then you're lifting weights the entire time,
So
you're going to keep some of those gains.
Yeah.
You're going to keep a certain percentage of it. But on the flip side, your endocrine system's going to be fucked up, and it's going to take you a while to get back to normal testosterone production if you do wind up testing and you do go back on USADA after the injury.
Yeah.
So there's an argument said that, like, you're taking a risk, you do recover quicker, but it might not be better for for your overall hormone system.
Right.
You know, I remember I was talking about it. We did it on the podcast. I don't have it memorized, but there was a test with testosterone. What they did in the Olympics, pre steroids and after steroids, and they start really testing
It's
everybody.
called the biological passport.
And they say that it
Yeah.
actually did not help. That
Didn't.
more people who didn't use had better results than the people who were using. And same thing as me. I had that face what you have now too. I was, but you know, I'll look it up.
You know
I'll
what I
look it
say? Just look at whatever the Russians are doing. Whatever they're doing, that's the right way to do it. Because they got a fucking state-sponsored program.
Holy
You know, the
shit.
United States is
Yeah.
working hard to try to clean it up. I mean,
Yeah.
they have baseball players have to go in front of Congress.
Yep.
They arrest people. People getting locked up. USADA, Jeff Nowitzki's crawling up everybody's ass. We're trying to find people that are using steroids
Yep.
and cheating. And Russia, they're like, what do we got
Handing
to
it out
do?
like candy.
What do we got to do?
Yeah.
Let's fucking make it happen, boys. You need to be faster. I got this stuff that I got from a horse. Let's stick it inside your body and see if you become a horse.
Jeez,
Shit,
yeah.
fuck it.
You know, they did some crazy tests in the early days, also with like making super soldiers, like
Yes.
injecting people with like plutonium,
Jesus.
like
Oh,
like
God.
prisoners. You know,
Jesus
like
Christ.
see what happened if he morphs into like a freaking Wolverine
Turns
or
into
whatever.
the Hulk. Yeah, they watch too many comic books.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost kicked the entire Russian Olympic
Oh,
team
yeah,
out
out
of
of the Olympics,
the
you're right.
Olympics in Brazil.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
They were like, hey, what the fuck, guys?
Yes.
Like, at the last minute, they decided not to, but
Wow.
they've been going back. You know, they used the old samples from 2008 and 12, and they've already kicked out two Russian Olympic gold medalists in wrestling.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, they're on the shit. They're on the shit. They're just on this undetectable shit or some shit that they don't detect yet.
Corellin, when you see him,
yeah.
that was, I mean, lifting
But what's
people
the
up
most
straight
we
from the
can
ground, laying on
expect
their
then,
belly.
guys, from you? Like the sport, is it ever going to be clean?
Well, it's way cleaner now in the UFC than it's ever been before. But I think there's also, I like the fact that ONE FC is available for guys who don't want to be clean.
Yep.
And Rizon's available for guys who don't want to be clean.
Yep.
You know, there's an argument either way.
Yeah.
There's an argument for the Pride way, which was everybody knew that everybody was on it.
Hey, they were
right?
testing Pride, right? Weren't they? I
Dude,
remember the
you
guys
know-
in the
you
white
know-
lab
you remember
coats.
the P
Hey, boss,
test
the
when I
white. I
played at
remember
the
that.
game
It's
on
like,
them?
hey, boss, what's this? Why is this a vial just sitting here? I mean, buddy, it
I
was,
did this thing
was
like
unbelievable.
They called it the boss tour. I was going backstage with the camera, showing everybody, "Hey man, what's up? Hey, this is hey, look at that, it's Wanderlei training." And you know, and then I said, "Okay, we walk into the room from the doctors." So I opened the door and I looked to the side and I see all the P-tests there with all the little sticks on them.
Right.
And I close the door right away and I look in the camera. I say, "Give me one moment. They're very busy. Let me walk in and ask for permission." So I walk in and I grab one of those cups and I see green tea. I fill it up and I put the same cup next to it. So then,
But you weren't even. You shouldn't
No,
have
but
been
I-
allowed to be that close.
No,
right?
but then, so I'm, see, I could have contaminated everything. So I'm walking in, and I'm saying, "Oh, these are the doctors here." And I look to the side, I go, "Oh, hey, the P-test." I say, "Man, wouldn't it be great if you can taste what fighter it is?" And these people, they looked at me, and so I take my green tea, and I take the thing off, and they go like, no, you know. And I take a little sip, and I start. I go, "It's either Coleman or Takada." That's what I think. They were freaking out, man. It was hilarious.
But there you go. There is a clear illustration.
Well, that's
obviously not serious.
Yeah, not WADA or
No.
USADA.
Yeah, I
or-
can't walk in.
Yeah.
No.
Had a green
Well,
tea cup.
Ensign, you know, has been real open about it.
Yeah.
Ensign talked about, like, they literally said in large print, "We do not test
Yeah.
you for steroids." And said it on the thing, you know?
Wow.
You know, I knew a guy from there, and he would say to me that in the morning he would take a huge syringe of testosterone because it made him really angry if
In the
fight.
morning?
Yeah, in the
Jesus
morning of the
Christ.
fight.
Yeah.
The morning of the fight, he
on
just
the morning of
jack
the
up.
fight, jacked up. One
Fuck.
And what about these guys who were like bench pressing the day before? You know, all these
Really?
muscle guys who they got in. You know, that you thought, why do they have these guys? Because they're not
Right.
fighters.
Well, it
just
was a
bodybuilders.
cosmetic
They were
thing. You're
benching
right.
pressing. Yeah, they were bench
They
pressing.
were pride with love to the freaks, my man, and that's you know, a lot of the matchmaking we saw.
Do you guys
was
remember
entertainment.
Jason Chambers from
Yes.
the
Yeah,
Ian
yeah,
Weber
yeah,
show?
yeah.
Hey, he went over to Japan. And I forget which organization was that they wanted him to fight 185, and he's like, "I weigh 170."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Don't worry, we'll get you on the steroids." Like, they told him they wanted him to juice up and go to 185. And he was like, "What in the fuck?"
Oh man.
Yeah, that's the problem. You know what people say here? They say they should just allow it. I
Wow.
say, yeah, but then you force the guys who want to stay
Right,
clean
right.
to use it as well.
And
You
as
shouldn't do
Joe
that.
mentioned earlier, I mean, there are health you're going to pay risk, but I think not even health risks. I think doesn't it damage your system when you do steroids?
Well, it depends on how much you're doing, but if you're going like super hyper human levels, like I'm sure a lot of those guys were, it's super bad for you. And it's one of the real clear indicators that a lot of guys were on it, were how they got off of it and came to the UFC and looked like mortals.
Yep.
Yeah,
you know, they looked like human pit bulls.
We
and then
saw
also
it right away.
Right away with a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. I mean, it's it is what it is, and it's unfortunately the early roots of MMA were marred. Like it's almost all people that took steroids. I mean, there's so many camps. If you talk to the insiders, they will tell you, God damn it, back then everybody was on.
Wow.
Everybody was on. You know, and you don't have to name names, and everybody who knows, and it doesn't matter. But what does matter is that when you look at the early days of the sport, it was essentially contaminated.
Yep.
And now they've wiped out a giant percentage of it. And occasionally guys still get caught with some things, and, you know, Cyborg got caught with some sort
Diuretic,
of...
right?
Yeah. It's also spironolactane is also a DHT inhibitor. It's dihydrotestosterone, which is a derivative of testosterone, which makes your hair fall out. And I used to use that spironolactane stuff that she got caught with. I used to rub that shit on my head to keep my hair from falling out. Yeah.
Boss, I'm taking notes. I feel like I'm studying under Professor Rogan right now. This is amazing. But no, that's good to know. You have to know
It's also used by people who want to shield themselves from tests. It's also used by females that have taken male hormones, and they want to reduce the effects of the extra androgens. Yeah, so there's a lot of factors.
Yeah, once they start growing hair out of the backs, you know, I think, and getting a stash.
And all this, the back knee, right? Remember in Pride Boss, we would see guys come in there just had the back knee.
Full zits. You could tell right away.
When you're banging a chick and you see werewolf back hair.
Well, they
like
say
hair.
clitoris can be as big as a thumb, right? That's what they say.
Whose thumb, though? Yours?
Yeah, I've got a big, but mine is lengthy and
thumb.
Yeah, but it's not
the
thick.
finger?
The girth is less.
But like Bob Sapp's thumb.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, the worst story I've heard. Some guy I was talking. I'm not going to mention names, and he said, and we were talking about that, and I go, oh man, that's got to be really horrible. He said, oh no, I had one. I did it at a bodybuilder, and she had like a big thing. I go, dude, what did you do? He said, oh, I sucked it.
Like a
mental
soother.
picture, dude.
Like a baby soother.
Isn't that funny? Like, we're all good with sucking clits as long as they're little. As long as it's little. But I don't care if it feels good for you. If I feel it more than a half an inch into my mouth, it's over, Bob. I will run out of here like this place is on fire. Even though it's a woman's vagina, it's still a vagina.
That's true. But if it comes with the accompanied voice, the dark voice, the Darth Vader voice. Oh yeah, I like it. That's right.
Suck the clit. I love it when you do
An
this to me.
animated Netflix special, the clitoris voiced by Joe Rogan.
Get back here! I'm not done, you motherfucker.
I'm gonna get a baby, and you're gonna be my father.
Yeah, there's got to be guys
man.
that are just really into being dominated by super powerful women with big clits.
There has to be. There has to be. I mean, you got all sorts of
Every
crazy
kind
people.
of fetish.
Takes every kind of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, some guys are listening right now. Go, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's my style, bro. That's my thing. So, do you think that when you guys look at Rizn right now, do you think that Rizn has the possibility of coming? They're putting on some fucking big shows.
Yeah.
They've got some good fights. You know, Cro Cop just wins the heavyweight tournament. You know, you're shaking your head over there.
I'm not.
You
Well,
don't think they have a chance of success?
It's hard. They're going to need, after Sakuraba stopped, Pride pretty much started going down. It was also
a Japanese star.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
You know, you have seen it with the K1. That was the reason K1 stopped at a certain time. There was no more Japanese star, and they need a good one. And,
So
but who are you going to
hard.
fight? Who's going to beat 4 Gracies, right? That's something that's a one-in-a-lifetime deal.
Well, K1 had
Sakuraba.
Masato at the lighter weights, who was a superstar.
And
But
K1
when-
Max.
Yeah, K1 Max. But then when you
but
get up to the bigger guys,
there
man,
weren't,
once you get a guy like Badr Hari size, it's just not. Who the fuck is going to be that big? You know?
Yeah,
The
and that
guys
was sad
like
too.
Rico,
How that fight ended, Badr Hari and Rico Verhoeven with
Unfortunate.
anticlimactic, but
broke his
unfortunate.
arm.
Yep.
But still, interesting fight
Yeah,
while
oh,
it was
yeah.
going on, and
Yep.
I'm excited about a rematch.
I hope so.
He looked like an animal.
Looks like
eh? He looked
Okansaki might be
really
wanting to come
good in
back
shape.
as well, and
Yeah.
Randy Boyanski's too. But again, see,
Boyanski's
these
like
names-
40, right?
Yeah, these guys are.
I just met
Can't
Andre
get it out of
Monard. He
the
was there
system.
at Madison Square Garden for the World Series of Fighting on December 31st. Monard was there, his trainer from Bonjanski. And but he didn't say anything. He said, you know, that
Yep.
I said, man, that's the guy who
Remember
trains
in-
champions. He said Bonjanski, but he didn't say anything more.
And
So I
Sammy
don't think
Schilt
so.
had to retire because of the heart condition and others. But yeah, it's.
So you see a guy like Overeem, like back when he was Overeem, you know, and when he was winning K1.
Slaughtering people.
Yeah,
265,
yeah,
super
wow.
jacked, and then he goes to MMA. But, guy wins the K1 Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Like, you got to wonder, like, a guy like Overeem, if he came back as Overeem, like, I don't know if it's Glory or Bellator, whoever has got the stones and the cash to pull him aside and say, listen, fella, there's work to be done here.
Yes, you can
believe
start
me,
again.
they would love to do it.
The diet, the horse meat.
This is my friend. He's from another country. He is a doctor. He
From
will
Russia.
help you.
They will make you better, stronger, faster.
He comes back 270, jacked again.
Man.
Like back when he knocked out Botter. Remember when he knocked out Botter with a left hook?
Oh,
Yeah.
complete animal.
Yeah, he's
Tyrone
over.
Spong. I want to see
Spong's-
him. Man, that guy.
Man,
I
the
was
one
so
time,
excited,
I
but
don't
he
know
broke his
why
leg.
I broke down. That was the one time in all the fights and everything we've seen. I remember I was there when Jose Pelly Landy Johns against Brian Gasway in Canada. John McCarthy and I,
Broke
when
his
he
leg.
broke his
Yeah.
leg. But for some reason, Saki and Spong, I almost broke down just to see because it was so visceral. It meant all of this, everything that it took for him to come back and put it in, and then boom, done.
Well, it was crazy because Tyrone Spong and him are both super high-level kickboxers,
Yes.
and you only really saw that mostly in MMA.
Right.
You really didn't see it that much in
Nope.
high-level kickboxing. It
And
was
that's why,
pretty
Gloria,
rare.
as we talked, there is now, Matt Embry, this kid from Canada who's now going to be fighting in Los Angeles next week. There's Canada, too, where the sport is banned in so many of the provinces, but Joseph Valtellini had to retire because of the concussion issues. But,
He's on next week. I got him on here next week.
Awesome. He's
Good
a
guy.
smart kid, man.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's I don't think he's 100% decided on his retirement, but he's leaning towards
Well,
that.
that's,
But
yeah,
because
I
of
mean, medically,
concussions.
the concussions, not something you want to mess with.
Well, remember T.J. Grant?
Yep.
He was
Yeah,
about
look,
to fight
TJ
for the title.
Exactly.
When Benson had the title in the lightweight division
Never
in the
came
UFC,
back.
never came back. And
But,
it's from concussions.
Yeah.
I just popped up. Pitbull. It was Pitbull who broke his shin. It was at Bellator.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
He broke
Right.
that bone in the next to his shin.
Yeah.
Fibula, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's interesting also that, like, we're talking about kickboxing not really gaining ground in America. Bellator hasn't really gained ground either.
No.
It reaches a certain point,
Yep.
and some of the ratings are really good, like when Ken Shamrock
But
fought
those
Royce
fights-
Gracie. Those freak
That's
show
where
fights.
Well, he
Coker-
invited Meryl Streep. Scott did. Did you see that
Yeah,
open letter?
He wrote the letter. Yeah.
On his
Of course,
Instagram.
promoter.
Why
See,
don't you
but
come
Scott
watch
Coker
this?
is a promoter. Always
Yeah.
has been, always will be. And I mean, there's that mix where I think Bellator has to focus on, because UFC, for the large part, 98%, 99% of the best talent, but Bellator trying. But you're right. And again, I think it's also because, Joe, what we talk about, too much of everything. Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
every week. Something,
Yeah, but that's why the
there's-
UFC did it as well. Oh, first, they got to have the fighters and they need to fight.
Well, of course.
But by having so many shows, you shut every organization
course.
down, right? I mean,
But then you look at guys,
so
and
much to
there's a
watch.
few guys in Bellator like
Yep.
Lima,
Yep.
who just knocked out Koreshkov, which is fucking
Amazing,
sensational.
amazing. Well,
Lima's
they have
world class.
Terrific fighter. Marlon, I mean, World Series of Fighting, even,
Yeah.
man. There's Marlon Moraes, great
Yes.
guy.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
Gaethje, we talked about, who was it, Firmino?
Firmino,
or
yeah,
Justin
last time Bush
Gaethje?
got
Yeah,
back.
Justin Gaethje.
He
but
got hit too many
buddy,
times.
he got lit up, too, in that fight, man.
He won, but he got hit too many times. He really needs to change his game plan. He knows he can take a punch, but he takes too much advantage of it, and I
Right.
just don't think it's.
But what are the goals? Like realistic, like what you say, like even Bellator hasn't got traction. So how do they continue to exist?
hard.
That's what it is. It is
It's hard because they've been around for a long
Yes.
time now. World Series of Fighting been
Yes.
around for a long time now, and the hardcore fans. And then you break it down, not even regular hardcore.
Right.
Hardcore are watching those events.
Exactly.
It's almost like we're spoiled.
Yep.
We have too many
We
events.
are spoiled,
We are, yeah.
and it's weird to say because how many years did we fight? Hey, look at us! Hey,
know.
we're here, and now it's like, wow, a tsunami of action.
Well, the UFC's been super wise with its promotion.
Sure.
They know how to stay on top, and they know. But I would like to see a challenger emerge.
Hmm.
And like right now, it doesn't. There's Bellator has guys like Michael Chandler. They've got some guys that are real exciting and really fun to watch, and I think could be genuine stars. And of course, Michael Venom Page.
Right, I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I love that guy.
I mean, for sure.
Man sent Cyborg into
Unbelievably
retirement, right? That
talented.
knockout was
That skull.
that skull
Devastating.
crushing.
I've never seen that
Never
before.
seen it before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
His
was
patella,
perfect timing.
his knee was indented in his skull.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
It was the crazy timing too, because Cyborg charged in,
Yep.
and it was kind of what we're talking about.
Yep.
But someone shooting for a double, but I don't think his knees were on the
No,
ground at that time.
no.
But as he shot in, Michael Venom Page timed it
Yep.
perfectly.
Well,
and
And
taught
going
him coming
back,
in.
remember Takanori Gomi, Half Gracie?
Oh, yeah.
Remember
Yeah,
6 seconds of
First,
Gracie?
yeah,
Still
first,
remember knee, boom,
first
done.
move of the fight.
Yep,
yeah,
gone.
that was Half's last fight,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I mean, knees to a guy who's trying to take you down. I mean,
It's-
it's so devastating. You have to commit to that knee or commit to that takedown,
Right.
and you get caught coming in like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like you can shoot with one hand in front of your face. It's very hard.
That was probably the most horrific injury I've ever
Oh,
seen
yeah.
in MMA.
I think so.
yeah.
I
Also
agree.
afterwards, the pictures, you know,
Oh,
with all these little plates
insane.
on them.
Insane.
And then he wants
Yeah.
to fight again.
He's
Well,
not-
no, but he's
yeah,
retiring. He's
decided
retiring.
now.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just
good.
announced.
Oh,
Yeah, I think he
Smart.
sat back after the fact and
Yep.
just really realized, like, wow, the fucking egg that contains my
Yeah.
brain is cracked.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Like, it's amazing that he recovered the way he did. As far as I'm concerned, after seeing the X-rays and the pictures,
picture with the
it's
death. It was-
unbelievable, man.
Fucking insane.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be dead.
Yeah.
You know, you think someone's skull's crushed like that, they're dead.
how many
Or-
fingers?
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it has to touch something of the brain that
Oh, yeah.
does something to you, right? It's a scary thing if you think about it.
And how much damage did his brain take
Well,
in that? I mean, that is a
that's-
significant impact.
And even in his career,
Yeah.
I remember
He
him
was that
and
fighter,
I
yeah.
remember Jordan Meehan against him. One amazing, but
elbows.
they're the
Elbows.
same thing, man.
Yeah.
Just getting
Him
rocked.
and Manhoef in
Manhoef,
England
too. Remember
they
that
had
in
some
England?
wars
Yes.
going on. Oh,
Cage rage, crazy how many. Well,
Yeah.
like you say, to see Nogueira at his prime in UFC, how many wars did Rodrigo and Ojiri go through in
But
Pride?
how many
Oh, yeah.
shots did they take, like from
that's
Fedor
what I
in the
mean,
guard?
all
And I
of
go,
them.
man, don't
Yep.
take those shots. You know,
Yeah.
try to.
crazy.
So many fighters in Pride, bro. Again, when we talked about the stomps,
Well,
and they're-
Gary Goodrich right now is coming out
it's
with
the
everything. You know,
CTE
it's
thing, right?
it's so sad to see
Yeah.
it because the guy was amazing.
I
He's-
just saw what was some, I don't know if it was one of those sports news magazine shows with the NFL and stuff, that they had 99 samples of former football players' brains were dedicated to research. Out of those, almost 100% showed signs of CTE.
Yeah, I can't imagine you get away without it. I mean, it's just you're colliding into each other. It's terrible.
Yep.
There's no way around it.
No.
You know, and if you're, Gary Goodrich said that is really his K1 career that did him
Really?
in. He said
For
it wasn't really
sure.
MMA fights.
Yeah.
the gatekeeper there also, pretty
Yeah.
much. But hey, he knocked out Bernardo all the way in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it was. We were talking about it at the Pride Fighting Championships when he came over there.
He was a powerful guy.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Big. Do you remember when him and Don Fry, and God, I hope speedy recovery to Don,
His
too.
back
for
is
all his
feeling great
medical.
now.
Is he?
Actually,
You've
I
talked
just
to him?
texted him yesterday. Yeah.
Good. Remember when he came back to Pride, the New Year's Eve show, and Goodrich knocked him out right away, too, the rivalry. But, yeah, Goodrich was a beast back in the day as well.
Yeah, what happened? He beat Gary in UFC.
I think
Yeah,
so.
he
Yeah,
did it.
UFC, of
Yeah.
course. And then in the Pride, the rematch was years later in Pride on New Year's Eve, and it was like one kick.
Yeah,
and that
because
was it.
Gary now was a kickboxer.
Yeah.
He started
Oh,
training
yeah,
in
he went to
kickboxing.
K1.
Oh, that's right. He head
Yeah,
kicked
yeah,
him.
he did.
Head kicked him in
kicked
there,
That's
yeah.
right.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about
I remember
that.
Frying Takayama, of course, is the all-time
Oh, that was
classic. So
insane.
much.
And
I
Ivel did it.
completely forgot
Yeah.
about Fry,
Yeah,
Goodrich,
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
And then Ivel did it to Goodrich, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? That was
Yes,
a high
that's
kick
right.
too.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You know,
Okay,
that's
what
where it
about-
all started. I think.
What about Swanson and Du Ho Choi? Look how many, an amazing
Yeah.
fight, but Du Ho Choi took how many shots?
Yeah.
That was a crazy fight. That was one of the most chaotic fights I've ever watched, and one of the most the data wasn't going in my head correctly. I was like, how is he getting hit with these haymakers?
Yeah.
The Cub Swanson's winging in from downtown Cleveland and cracking him on his head. I mean, they came from across the fucking country. His punches were crazy.
unbelievable.
It's like
It's like
so
throwing
much
a
on
ball.
them. And
Fantastic.
boom, he would take it
Oh,
right
my
on the
God,
chin and just
my God.
stagger back, and then Cub would crack him again. He would stagger back.
It's just
our
unbelievable.
room, everybody was standing when we were watching it. It was insane. It was the
Well,
craziest
many,
thing.
a lot of people picked it as the fight. I mean, there's so many. That's the thing. Remember, it started with Lawler and Condit?
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
year, dude, for
Yeah.
fights.
That was a crazy
What
fight,
was
too.
it? Oh, that was with Holloway. When he draw the line, remember?
Yes.
And then they started slinging it out
Ricardo
of the line.
Lamas.
Love
Yeah,
that.
y'all started
Oh,
slinging at
that's-
each other.
He's
Yeah.
one of my favorite guys too, man. And
Yeah.
the way we had him on a podcast,
Yeah, Max
and
Holloway. Well,
that's Conor McGregor too. Like
Yeah.
he's 100% convinced he's going to get a title. He's
Yeah.
one of these guys that there's nobody's going to stand in
Connor,
his path.
but you know what? We went the distance with Connor, but I mean, Connor
Yeah.
did
Connor beat him.
beat him.
And Connor had
Yep.
a blown
Beat him.
out
Yeah,
ACL in
yeah,
that fight,
yeah,
too.
That's right.
Tore his
but then
ACL.
in,
later he said
Toronto.
that he was also injured.
Oh, Max was?
Yeah.
I believe it. You know, Max is real. I mean, he's an interim champion right now, but he's world championship caliber. I just want to see how he does against Aldo. I want to see how he does against some of the best guys. But, you know, he's finished Cub Swanson.
Should we get rid of interim titles through and through? Boxing, MMA, all this shit?
I think the only way that interim titles make any sense is if someone is recovering from a catastrophic
injury.
Yeah, like someone blows their ACL out and you go, okay, well, the title is now going to be suspended for a whole year.
Yep.
Because it's going to take 6 months before you can even start training again, and then 9 months before you can start training hard, and then 3 months to go through camp. You need a year.
And then you got Cruz. It took even longer.
2 years.
They blew it out.
You know,
but came back too
you're
quick.
right.
But or do you simply say, listen, the title's going to be taken away from you. You know, you're not the champion anymore, but you are the first one in line as soon as you come back.
And that's usually the case
a
lot of the time, right? When they do recover, they do get the... But I just think
I don't think so. I think that's an interim.
Yeah, because then they lose the title.
I think that's when the interim
in the
makes
history
sense.
books, right?
That's when the interim makes sense.
Yeah.
When someone's got a bad injury and, you know, like Anderson Silva breaks
I don't think it made
leg.
sense with Conor to take it away. And I mean, I know if he wasn't going to defend it, but we know. I mean, they needed... Again, I think the UFC's at a point now.
Which one do you don't think makes sense?
The Holloway.
When they took it away from Conor at 145?
Because
he's
they
not
needed
defending the title.
Well, I know,
but he's not defending the title. You got to take it away from him. He's got
I
another
agree, but
title.
I think if Aldo's already the champion, then the winner of Holloway and they become the #1 contender then. And
yeah,
fight
but the
Aldo.
problem is you tie up the titles.
Yep.
Well,
you know,
but
and you got a guy who's the champ.
Yeah.
Champ like Conor, champ at 45 and 55.
Yep.
You got to vacate one because it's like to hold two of them subsequently or simultaneously.
But then they should have done it right then and there. He made history. Thank you very much. Here's the one title that I'm not going to defend.
No, he's got to decide.
Yeah.
You know, he decided he's going to stay at 55, or they decided for him. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I don't think he can get 145. It's going to be hard for him.
See, there's another weight cut that you're right. I
Brutal
think he
weight
should
cut.
be at 145.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a man when you see him at 145.
Looks like
the day
death.
of the cut-in?
Yeah,
or
it
the
looks
weigh-in?
like death.
Oof.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
You can only do that so many times. Much healthier at 155, and there's a bunch of fights for him.
Oh,
but then, you know, when they were talking about Nurmagomedov fighting Tony Ferguson.
Look at that, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that fucking picture on the left. He looks like a dead man. He
You're
looks
right.
like
He
a
looks like
dead
a skeleton.
man.
I'm coming for you.
Yeah, much healthier on the right. So I think that, you know, if they were talking about having Aldo and Nurmagomedov fight for an interim 155 title, or Ferguson.
So then what happens at 145?
I think 45 is now Aldo. Aldo's the champ.
Right.
Max Holloway's the interim champ. Those guys have to fight.
They should fight.
They should
Thank
fight.
you.
100%.
Thank
100%. But now Aldo, I mean, I don't know if it's true, but Nurmagomedov said it was bullshit. And they were talking about Aldo fighting a super fight with Nurmagomedov in Russia.
And of course, Tony Ferguson's like, what?
Well, Tony Ferguson wanted more money than his contract stated, and unfortunately for him, he's in a weird position right now because there's so many fights to be made at 55. And the big one, of course, is Conor.
Sure.
Anybody who Conor fights, if Nurmagomedov decides to fight Conor and they decide that's the big fight and they put it on in Russia,
put it anywhere, but Russia for sure.
Fucking I don't think people
Good luck
realize
with those
how much
Irish
of
guys and
the Russian
in
guys.
Russia.
It'd be chaos.
But no, you're right.
It'd be
I don't
death.
think they do realize, Joe, how big he is in Russia.
Nurmagomedov's giant. He's a huge star. When he goes on stage too, like when he steps onto the platform and enters into the cage, the fucking crowd goes nuts. They know who he is.
Yep.
It's just one of those things where Russians are way ahead of the game in terms of knowing who he is, and he's a giant star over there, but he could be a giant star over here too.
Sure.
Kid's a fucking mauler. He
yeah.
mauls people.
And a fighting guy, too, you know, outside of fighting.
He's got personality for
Yeah.
sure.
I like him.
He's he's a real wild card in that division because he's undefeated.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw one moment of weakness. That's it. One moment was he in trouble, and he came back from that brilliantly.
Kane Velasquez ever fight again?
Yeah, he's going to fight again, but, you know, he's got some serious fucking medical problems. He's got a stenosis, spinal stenosis, which is they have to clean out his area where his spine is.
So why would you fight again?
Because he's got a dream. He wants to
I
get
don't
the
know, but I know
title
what you mean.
back.
But you say it medically like that. If it's you know what I'm saying? Like, see.
Well, apparently the doctors are very convinced that they can open up that pathway a little bit, and whatever's pressing down on the bone spurs or anything that are pressing down the nerve, they can remove those, and that'll alleviate his issues.
All right.
I don't know, though. I'm not a doctor.
No,
I don't know what's going on.
Poor guy, man.
But he fucked up in saying that he had to get surgery
exactly
before the
and that's
Verdum fight.
Right.
That was a big mistake.
Yeah, it was.
Because you put, Bob Bennett and the Nevada State Athletic Commission in a terrible position because you're saying that you're compromised.
Yeah.
And so then they ran some tests on him, and I guess his doctor cleared him, but the Nevada State Athletic Commission was like, look, you're going to have a cortisone shot and numb everything up. And even though you might have some, you don't have really a problem as far as the structure of your back, you might be compromised. So they're like, can't do it. Go get the surgery.
What about that French heavyweight Ngannou? He's
a dark horse.
He's
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. But wow, when you were talking about people. Romero, I was thinking about him. I'm like, wow, that guy is
he's terrifying.
a monster, man.
Yeah, Ngannou can punch so fucking hard, and he kicks so hard too. And he gets into the octagon. There's certain dudes, they walk in the octagon, they sound different. Like it's like fee, fi, fo, fum. They're just bigger, man.
Yeah.
Like Gonzaga was like that.
Gonzaga,
would step onto the platform to weigh in and just be like, Jesus Christ. It's like he's made out of stone.
Yeah.
It's just heavier. Boom.
I love those elbows. You remember that he threw so over the top and through the defense on the ground when he was in the guard?
Right.
Yeah. Well, it was sweet revenge when Mirko came back and smashed him with elbows from the top in their rematch.
What a
was
rematch.
crazy
That's
also
crazy.
That fight, Mirko was saying that one of the things he doesn't like about the UFC versus Pride was that there's too much grappling and that there's too many elbows in the ground. But what won him the fight?
Yeah.
Grappling and elbows in the ground.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
He was worried that Gonzaga was just trying to take him down and that he wasn't going to stand with him, so he couldn't get his revenge from the head kick knockout.
But he got it.
Meanwhile, he takes Gonzaga down. He's on top, and he smashes him with elbows.
Yeah.
So it's so ironic.
It's unbelievable, man.
Where did you learn?
Yeah, I mean,
It's a learning game.
Well, he realized that's and also when you got a guy who's that level striker like Mirko is throwing elbows from the guard, you see how much force he can generate.
Well, he's retired again after winning the Rizn thing.
Beautiful
we'll see.
for him, man.
Yeah, good for him.
What a great win! Great way to go out on an epic career.
Yeah, I
That
loved.
big
I mean,
guy,
one
that
of the
knee,
all-time
straight to the
faves.
solar
Of course,
plexus.
the prank you pulled, but I mean the fight with Fedor. Just he was one of for me, the guy right away when you were around him was like, holy shit, man.
I'll never forget his stare down with Wanderlei for that first fight.
yeah.
Man.
The first fight, someone finally outstared Wanderlei.
Yeah.
No, he was not afraid.
No,
Not
This
only
guy's
a
freaking-
fucking straight up killer.
Oh, yeah.
Looking right into your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, ready to cut your heart out with a fucking butter knife. I mean, that was no joke, man.
That's why it was so easy to set him up, because Mirko didn't want to be interviewed by anybody. He wanted me to interview him, and nobody else could interview him. So he didn't
respect
the
the media.
stage
He never showed
for the whole
Remember, he
prank that
never
I
used to
pulled
go
on
to
him.
press conferences. He hated the media.
Yeah, he did the same
Why
thing.
did he hate the media?
It just because, there were. Remember the translation? I guess there was an interview, right? Remember there was an interview where I guess the Pride people
Translated
were
it wrong.
translating it wrong, and he came across. He's like, "F you guys." So I mean, he and Boss had a kinship, but I was very intimidated, my man, and
It's
you
funny.
got me good. But he. Wow, but it showed a personality too, because that was the
Right.
time where it showed,
Plus,
he could
then
be
he
playful.
became your buddy
Oh,
now,
yeah, he
right?
became
Now
a
it was
friend
like,
after
hey,
Well, most
yeah,
people
yeah.
don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but you guys played a prank on Mauro.
Okay. Well, the prank was this. Mirko Cro Cop was facing Ron Waterman. Now, the way we set it up, like 2 days before the fight, we both interview a fighter. He interviews Waterman. I interview Cro Cop because he never wanted to do anything with Cro Cop. He was afraid of Cro Cop. Plus, Cro Cop said he wanted only to be interviewed by me.
Okay.
So I'm already, before this, I'm thinking, okay, I got to do something. So I went to Cro Cop and I said, listen, I'm going to interview Waterman. And then it's like, oh, no, it's all no moment. You're going to have to interview Mirko Cro Cop. Are you okay with that? He said, sure. So because he thought it was funny. So Waterman comes in. I start interviewing him. And sure enough, when he left, I look at Mauro. I go, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. And he goes, what? I said, I interviewed Waterman. So I said, well, you're going to have to interview Mirko. He goes, no, man, I don't want to interview Mirko. And Mirko never wanted to go to these interviews. He wanted to be interviewed on the day of the event in his dressing room.
Yeah, that's right.
So we go to the dressing room with him, and he starts, and Mirko is now all in on it. This moment,
There it is.
and he starts telling, hey, Ron Waterman, he said something about a funeral, and Mirko is thinking, he said, for a comeback, and he says, a funeral is when somebody passes away. And then Mirko goes, I know what a funeral is.
Yeah.
And so it starts like that, and slowly but surely, and suddenly Mirko stops and he says, I didn't like the way you were commentating on my fight last time. And it wasn't him commentating, it was somebody else. So he goes, no, it wasn't me. No, it was you. And he looked at his corner, and the whole corner goes, yeah, no, it was you. And he's looking at me. Mauro looks at me like, a little help here, a little help, and I'm just looking away, I'm not saying anything. And then, I really didn't expect, no, but I really wasn't doing that. But can we go back to the question? So but now Mirko started getting annoyed, and he doesn't want to ask questions anymore. He says, dude, this guy is angry. He doesn't like me. I don't want to scare. So he gets out, and we send him back. We said, no, you're going to have to ask him a few more questions. So he's he's going back, and he sits down again, and he starts going. And Mirko gets up, says, you know what, this is it. And he walks straight up to Mauro, and Mauro starts pissing his pants. Of course, he thinks, this is over. And Mauro comes out. He says, no, okay, I don't want to do it. No, you need one more question. We need one more question. He goes, no, I don't want to do it.
I'm pissed.
And
I'm
he's
not
walking
even,
away.
I'm like, F you guys now.
And I go, uh-oh. And Mirko came out of the dressing room, and he started walking straight
Right
up to
towards
Mauro.
me.
And Mauro, you see him shrinking. And he goes, dude, this is all just a joke. He says,
It was like
And they
Kaiser
started laughing.
Suse. Remember unusual special Mirko coming out. He's gonna fucking left kick my head off. My career's done. I'm finished. And then he was in on it. But you guys, it was terrifying.
Well, that was when he was the head of the anti-terrorist squad
Thank you. Yes.
in Croatia.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
That's
No,
a guy
he was a
who's seen
badass,
some
man.
shit.
Yeah, no, he did.
Yeah.
He had some little notches on his rifle, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah.
On his knife, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's,
One of those big Rambo knives.
There was
Yeah.
some real shit
No,
going
you're right.
on.
He never wanted to. He never came to press conferences, showed up to fight, and got the hell out of Dodge.
Well, he was one of the first real high-level kickboxers to enter into Pride.
Right.
And once he learned how to sprawl, he started lighting people
Yeah,
up, like
yeah.
Vochamchin. Remember that? He
Oh.
knocked out Fedor's brother,
Yeah,
Alexander.
Vanderlei.
Ooh, Vanderlei, the one.
Vanderlei.
Vanderlei was
Remember
brutal.
the open weight Grand Prix,
Yeah.
man.
Oh,
Unbelievable
so scary.
what he did to
Vanderlei
Vanderlei.
was heavier than
Oh,
him back
yeah,
then.
yeah.
Vanderlei was 218. Cro
Hey.
Cop was 214.
What remember Vanderlei and Mark Hunt with Randy Couture
Oh, yeah.
doing the
Oh.
commentary? There's a small cunt over his right eye. He meant to say small cunt.
Mark
But,
Hunt.
said that.
the atomic
all
butt
on
drop.
drop.
Think about the weight difference there.
Yeah,
Holy
crazy.
shit.
Well, a lot of people thought that fight kind of ruined Vanderlei.
Yeah.
But Hunt cracked him a couple of
Yeah.
times and had him stunned in that fight, and that was one of Vanderlei's last fights in his
Yeah.
prime.
But he's another one, man. Right? How many? Just him and Quentin Rampage Jackson. How about that for a dramatic KO? Halloween, Pride 28, when Jackson did very well in the rematch, and then Vanderlei catches him again, the knees and stuff, and he's between the ropes and blood
and he went
flowing from
yeah.
his. Holy crap!
That was
man.
a bad knockout. That was a real
Jesus.
bad. And he smashed his nose open.
Yep.
What's going on with Vanderlei now? Vanderlei's going to fight in Rizn?
I heard.
Well, he was
Is that
no,
what's
he was
happening?
supposed to fight Mirko in the Rizn thing, and he didn't.
He pulled out. of it. He had an injury or something?
Yeah, I don't know. He's hanging out with Bellator. Another one, man. They can't fight anymore, man. Can he? I'm not the one to say by any means, but what's the
Well,
point?
he definitely can fight
Well, he can
more.
fight, yeah, but
Whether or
what's-
not his health is good. I mean, he
That's
hasn't
it.
fought in a long time now, too. You got to think, like, this is a long time off.
Yep.
Yep.
I remember once he told us in Pride. I go, how long? Typical question, how much longer you want to do? Well, Randy Couture did it till he was 48, so I'm going to do it till I'm 50. Well, okay.
Now, what do you guys think about what happened with Vanderlei? Because with Vanderlei, they came to him. USADA came to him. They tried to test him, and he's like,
ran.
I'm out of here. And he
Yep.
fucking ran.
Not good.
And,
Overeem did the same thing. Remember, ran
He
too.
flew back to Holland.
Yep.
When was this?
Remember, he was against Mir, was it? Or what fight was it supposed to be? Where he was the same thing, kind of got out of Dodge when the
Oh, really?
testing was looking for him. But Vanderlei, same, yeah.
I didn't know about the Alistair.
Yeah.
Why did I didn't know about that one?
Yeah, he. What was the first? Alistair
That was the
Overeem.
first time.
Yeah, they went the same thing, and but he tried to say, "Well, I didn't know that you guys were."
Sprints away from drug
there it
testing.
is.
Okay, so this is 2012.
12, yeah. See,
So
we're
that
going
was
back.
back when it was this is really rare that you would get caught.
Yep. Yeah, see, Frank. Yeah, the mirror right there. So yeah, I mean, it's dumb, right? It's
Definitely not good.
I'm guilty.
Yeah.
That's it. That's saying I'm guilty. Yep.
Yeah. But it just seems like to me they railroaded him. I mean, you can't just take the guy's career away. You know, if you tested him and he was positive, that's whatever punishment he should
Right.
get. If he runs away from the test, just say he's positive, and then he would have already been fighting again.
Yep.
But instead they tried to suspend him
Wanderlei forever, right?
Forever, for life.
Yeah.
So he got that overturned, but now he's still battling out in court. Who knows how much it cost him in court?
But did he do
expenses.
himself any favors with this interview? Bashing UFC, bashing everybody.
Well, it was worse than that. He started making YouTube videos,
right?
Like a maniac, staring in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Who?
Wanderlei, yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
I got the present for you, friend.
Yeah, it just got crazy. Yeah, I mean, it was probably some really dark moments for him.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, where does he make money now? Just his gym, I guess, right?
If that, I don't even know how successful.
Plus, it's hard as a fighter. For me, it's hard to not do it anymore, and especially not train anymore. At least when you can train,
right.
you have that. But the feeling, there's no feeling like it to walk out and have,
Are you training at all anymore?
No, only just water exercise on the water, and sometimes I do with weights training my right arm pretty much. The rest, I don't.
Weren't you going to fight Wanderlei in Pride with MMA
That was that
gloves?
show, the Dynamite show. That was officially, I was facing to fight him. They asked me, you want to fight? But I didn't fight for a long time. And I said, listen, I'd only been striking. So since this is a mix between K1 and Pride, why don't we do a kickboxing match with the Pride gloves? I would love to do that.
Okay.
But they didn't go for it. He chose another opponent at the time. So, but I think that would have been
some
great,
cha-ching for you.
That would have been cool. Yeah,
Some
that was good money at the time.
That would have been a crazy fight. Yeah. So what's holding Rizn back from becoming like Pride again?
Superstar.
A superstar.
A superstar.
And they just need some big Japanese dude to come along.
To start slaughtering
capture
people.
some Sakuraba type character.
Yep.
To capture the public's
Surprised they haven't brought
imagination.
Sakuraba back.
Oh, the poor guy.
Poor guy, man.
Yeah, I mean, he took some horrible.
I had fun
the
with him at
rematch with
Metamoris.
Wanderlei, how
We met
fast
him
that was.
when he fought Henzo again on the Metamoris in Cali, and Frank and I had a chance to visit with him. Frank was very close to fighting Sakuraba in Pride. They offered a big contract, same thing. They couldn't come to an agreement, but...
Well, listen, we got to wrap this up. You guys were a duo for some of the greatest fights of all time. And I enjoyed it deeply. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you guys coming on.
Enjoy this a lot.
And let everybody know about your podcasts. You got 2 podcasts going on.
We drop the one on Monday, Combat Sports Carousel, where we cover MMA, boxing, a little WWE, and kickboxing as well. And Boss breaks it down like a boss. And then on Fridays, it's just Boss and I riffing on a bunch of different things, on life, movies, entertainment, comedy, Joe Rogan, Rutten Ranallo.
Rutten and Ranallo. If you spell it out, all A-N-D, ruttenandranallo.com, you can find all the platforms
iTunes,
there.
SoundCloud,
and
everything.
the other one is Combat
Sports Carousel.
But you can find it all on, once you click there on the link, you see them all.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Bye.
Whoop.
Oh, it's very cool.